Perfect. When I was a little kid, the two things I loved most in life were Godzilla and NES games. So, naturally, when Godzilla Monster of Monsters came out, it was like a dream come true. Well, almost. To sum it up, most of the game revolved around getting through very repetitive outer space levels while smashing up tanks and jets, and then fighting against Godzilla's monster enemies. Overall, it was pretty mediocre, but back then I didn't care. When I got the game as a present for my 10th birthday, I played it night and day as much as I could. Unfortunately, I traded the game for Amagon a year later, much to my regret when I found out what the game was like. Recently, I bought an NES system, and through a lot of hunting and asking around, my friend Billy managed to find a copy of Godzilla Monster of Monsters. I was pumped to play my favorite childhood game. It never even occurred to me to ask Billy where he found it. He also gave me some other games like Legend of Zelda, Bomberman, and some stupid thing called Action 52, but Godzilla had to come first. So I started the game, and the nostalgia came flooding back like a tidal wave. Godzilla's 8-bit theme song flooded proudly through the speakers, and I was soon grinning like an idiot. Some people laugh at me for playing such outdated games, but I've never had as much enjoyment for any games other than those on the NES. Those 8-bit games take me back to when things were much simpler, more safe. But after what's happened with this game, I don't have those feelings anymore. I had forgotten how quick the fun of smashing things as Godzilla wore off in the scrolling levels. The game bombards you with bullets and things crashing into you from every direction, and you're too big to avoid most of them. Let me see if this sounds better. Although my excitement had worn down some, it wasn't long at all before I got to my first boss battle. My first opponent was Ghidorah, an obscure squid kaiju who had never been in a Godzilla movie. The most annoying thing about fighting Ghidorah is that he always backs you into a corner and starts smacking you with his tentacle, and you're unable to move until he gets off you. This move doesn't do any damage, but it can stall you until the timer runs out and you have to start the fight over, and he regains some health. It's annoying as it sounds, and of course he did it when I fought him. Only for some reason this caused the game to glitch up. Eh? Where the fuck is the image? It's just not showing up at all. Hold on. Weird. Okay, sorry. I'm breaking the immersion here for a second. OBS isn't letting me drag images into it, which kind of ruins the way that this was planned to be. Wait, that's not an image, it's a web page. Fuck off. That's why. Okay, here's how we do it better. Oh my god. I fucking hate .webp. Breaking the immersion. Fuck you. Back to the immersion. Only for some reason, when he did this attack, it's caused the game to glitch up, because once he started smacking me, he never stopped. The timer's supposed to end the fight in about 40 seconds, but this lasted nearly 5 minutes. After a while, the graphics started to mess up, with little red blocks all over the place. Which was weird, but I just took the game out, blew on it, and then started again. I wasn't about to let a little glitch stand in my way. So, I started again, and this time I defeated Ghidorah and the level's other boss monster, Mogera, without any problems. So then I was on to the next planet, Mars. I browsed around the board and found something unexpected. Where Varen's piece should have been, there was instead a piece representing Titanosaurus. There were only 10 kaiju in the game, and Titanosaurus was not one of them. Or so I thought. Perhaps Titanosaurus was originally intended to be in the game, but was swapped out with Varen for some reason? Malgara. Okay, thank you. Oh no. Weird. So I began to feel very excited. Not only was I playing my favorite game... That's not it. Not only was I playing through my favorite game, but I was playing some sort of prototype with a new monster. Needless to say, I ran through the levels as fast as I could to see Titanosaurus in action. Fought Godzilla again and beat him before he could do his tentacle smack. But this time the glitch started happening when he died. Godzilla's sprite didn't sink to the bottom, but instead it seemed to be devoured by the glitch. And his eyes started randomly spawning all over the place. I now know that these glitches with Godzilla were my first warning sign that something was very wrong with this game. But foolishly I ignored it and proceeded to fight Malgura, who this time had a glitch of his own. Malgura was twice the size he should have been, which startled me. He was also considerably harder to beat than usual, which is to say not at all, but soon I had defeated him also, and when he died, yet another glitch happened. This happened extremely fast, so I was able to get a screen cap of it at all. So I was lucky to get a screen cap of it at all, but what happened was that the giant Malgura sprite started to shatter and melt. Also, if you look at the garbled text in the right corner of the screen, you'll notice what appears to be a bird in a cage. I still have no idea what that means. At this point, I was about to fight Titanosaurus, and I was worried as to what kind of glitches would happen this time. But to my surprise, Titanosaurus looked just fine. Although all of the games bipedal monsters were the same height, Titanosaurus was a bit taller. But since he was actually taller than Godzilla in his film debut, I thought that this was kind of cool. Huh. After a very fun fight with the monsters that wasn't supposed to be in the game, I took over the enemy base and proceeded not to Jupiter like normal, but instead to Pathos. Pathos was the same as Jupiter in layout, except the board was dark blue rather than green. The first thing I noticed was that the usual level icons had been replaced by a blue rock in some kind of orange honeycomb shape. There was one icon that had part of the jungle icon shape, but I didn't pay much thought to it. I checked the other side of the board to see the new monster. Instead of Hedora, it was Biolante. Let me know if I mispronounced shit, because some of these are weird. That couldn't be right. Godzilla vs. Biolante? It didn't come out until 1989, and this game was made in '88. Perhaps Toho put him in the game to build excitement for the movie for the next year, but changed their minds? I tried to rationalize the game's abnormalities the best I could, but this would prove to be futile. Pathos Map Song was the first new song I heard in the game. Like most songs, it was hard to describe, but I'll try. It was slow and suspenseful, much slower than any song in the game. But every 12 seconds or so, there would be like a loud clashing sound and the tempo changed. It was like the composer randomly played parts from 5 different songs with the same instruments. I moved Godzilla over to one of the many blue rock icons that had replaced the jungle icons and started the level. The level resembled a blue mountain range with a blood red planet in the sky. There was something odd about the mountains. They had this shredded paper look to them. I thought at first maybe the glitch had affected it, but it looked way too intentional. I quickly noticed that something else about this new level. There were no enemies at all. Not even any obstacles. I should also mention that this was where the point meter started to become glitched beyond comprehension. It didn't really bother me much, but I never keep up with game points anyways. So without having to focus on anything, I listened to the music while walking through the level unopposed. The music had a sorrowful feel to it. It would have been rather pleasant had I heard it in a normal game. It went on for about 3 screens, but with no obstacles around, I finished it really quickly. I tried other levels of the same type to see if any enemies appear, but there were none. There was little else to be seen in the Blue Mountains, so I tried the other level type. I started one of the orange levels, and my eyes were assaulted with some grotesque background of a tumorous eyes. The sky, in quotes, was the same as the ground, so I assumed the game was indicating that this level takes place in a cave? The only enemies here were Matango spawn, but as you can see, the little bastards were everywhere. The music certainly didn't help, with a mixture of screeching sounds and loud drum beats that sounded like a monster's theme in a horror film. After completing it, I tried to avoid playing through any more of these levels whenever I could. The map was short, so it was only a few minutes before I was headed towards a rematch with Gazora and Maugera, third time. But this time their sprites and attack patterns were totally different. I fought Maugera first. His replacement was a flying machine with a slight resemblance to Pascagula alien. It was a bit like fighting Mothra, only it moved with more grace. It attacked by spinning its front tentacle like a corkscrew. And it still had an eye beam, except now it fired it out of the drill. This lanky aberration had to place Gazora, and the new beast was more of a challenge. It would run and jump at a fast pace, constantly swinging its arms around and making it hard to get close. Of course, it tried to pin me in the corner with as much as annoying resolve as ever. I defeated it using a combination of tail whips and heat beam spamming. Oh, look at these little cuties. I defeated them and was going to fight Titanosaurus, but when I started the fight, he was nowhere to be seen, and the game simply went back to the map with the Titanosaurus piece now missing. There was no one left to fight now but Biollante, so I eagerly started the battle. I was really surprised that Biollante started the fight in her rose form. She was immobile and used her tentacles to keep me away from the main body, which took the most damage. As expected, she turned into her final form after taking enough damage. The sprite looked really damn good for 8-bit. Her battle technique was the same, except now she could move, albeit slower than any other monster. Being hit by the tentacles did more damage now, and all she could do was an acid spit, which I managed to avoid simply by jumping like this in the screen cap. Not much more difficult to beat than Titanosaurus, it only took 2 rounds. But when Biollante was gone, the music had stopped. And there was a new icon replacing the base. The icon wasn't there before I beat Biollante. It looked like some red tribal mask. I had a feeling of dread when I saw it. But since it replaced the base, it must be the only way to exit Pathos. I moved Godzilla to the square and started the level. It was a hellish-looking place with no sky and a flickering fire in the background. The fire looked far more advanced than anything I'd seen on the NES. There was music in the form of a slow, steady drum sound resembling a heartbeat. All the text on the top of the screen said, "Run." The life bar was gone. My feeling of dread had intensified. I cautiously walked through the level, but like the Blue Mountains, there were no enemies. I paced around for a minute thinking, run? From what? The first time it hit me, I didn't even see it. I heard a noise outside my room and turned back to see if something fell. And when I looked back, Godzilla was dying. I figured it must have just been a glitch, but I wasn't going to play through the game without Godzilla, so I restarted the level and restarted the game and went back to the password screen. Have I ever mentioned how creepy the password screen music is? If you've played the game, you know what I mean. It doesn't at all fit the mood of the game. It's more like something from a horror game. Maybe they made it like that so kids wouldn't cheat? I don't know. I was really annoyed at this point because I thought I was going to have to fight all the monsters again, but that didn't happen. The game started me off right where I was before I started the red face level, so I tried again, making sure to pay attention this time. That's when I heard a low, bellowing sound. And then I saw it. This thing. Do you know that feeling your body has when you feel like you're in extreme danger? You start to recoil and tense up as the adrenaline flows through your veins, and your nerves start to feel cold? That's the feeling I had when I took this screen cap. I haven't seen all the Godzilla movies, but I'm pretty damn sure this was never in any of them. It had to be something the creators made up. But what kind of sick fuck would put this in a children's game? By sheer dumb luck, or perhaps the adrenaline boost, I managed to run fast enough to get away from it. It ran really fast, so much so that if you saw it, you were certainly gonna die. And when I say die, I mean your monster gets killed instantly if the creature touches them. Once I'd gone back to the map, I was so afraid that I was extremely tempted to just shut the game off and try to pretend this never happened. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. It couldn't have been real. And even if I wanted to continue, I still had to get Mothra through this chase level. But as I stayed inactive on the map screen for a few minutes, my fear was replaced with this burning curiosity. What the hell just happened? What was the rest of the game like? I only had to beat this level with Mothra and then it was on to the next world. But when I moved Mothra to the red face, the game registered it as me beating the level. I was quite relieved. I tried to prepare myself for the next world. Trance. I was still pretty shook up from the last level when I started Trance. Its map music did nothing to ease the tension. As for how to describe it, have you ever heard the theme from Videodrome? That's the closest thing I can think to compare it to. Let's try that. I checked to see who the new monster was, and it was Orga. A monster who didn't make his film debut until 2000. Appearing in a game made in 1988? So much for my theories about Titanosaurus and Biolante. There's no way this game was made in 88. Those guys at Toho might be smart, but they can't see that far into the future. If they could, they never would have given Roland Emmerich the rights to make a Godzilla movie. No, this had to be a hack of some kind. Which just opened up more questions. Who made it? When? How? And importantly, why? Why? That was the question that bothered me the most. My immediate assumption was to think Billy did this to put a joke on me, but that can't be right either. Billy didn't know how to make a ROM hack. And if he did, he'd probably do something simple and stupid, like replace all the monsters with crudely drawn genitalia. Unless Billy had some amazing game editing skills and a serious dark streak to his imagination that he never told me about, he couldn't have made this. So, is it even possible to put a hacked ROM onto a cartridge? I don't know where that theme is from, and I don't want to get DMCA'd, so I'm going to stop it. Back to video game music. My immediate assumption... Oh, no, I already read that. Aside from all that, my eye was drawn to a new icon on the map. A question mark. I was really curious as to see what it did. I'm sure you're also curious, so I'll explain the quiz levels now, because this is when they start appearing. There was one of these per map from here on, and they always appeared near the start of the map. When you step on a quiz level, you see a screen like this. As you can see, there's a question at the top and a yes or no button, and some emoticon in the center. I refer to the emoticon as face for convenience. I'll refer to it as face as the one asking the questions. The music for the quiz levels was a track in the game, actually. It's one that plays when you try to use the GH1D0RA cheat and get sent to an unplayable level. Face asks you 12 yes or no questions, and you move your monster to the buttons for the answer. When you answer, the question... when you answer, the question disappears and face changes expressions for about 8 seconds, and then goes back to neutral and a new question comes up. There was no time limit, nor any right or wrong answers. Face has no respect for the player's personal boundaries, and will sometimes ask deeply disturbing and personal questions, like, do you like hurting people? Wait, hang on. Like, do you like hurting people? Have you ever killed anyone? Have you ever been hurt by a family member? Other times he would ask questions that were either mind-numbingly stupid, like, is the sun hot or is water wet? Or just ridiculous, like, does your dog like the president? And maybe once per quiz, he would ask you a question about the game. With one exception, Face's expression changes seem to have no effect on the game, except for indicating what the game creator thought of your answer. His reactions rarely made sense, and at first I thought they were just randomly generated. The questions never really followed a pattern. He never stayed on the same subject for more than 2 questions. Early on, there were questions that made me think Face was building up to something, only then to ask some stupid garbage. Here are the expressions of Face that I saw while playing. I'll separate them into 2 categories, the expressions I understand and the expressions I don't. First are the expressions I understood. 1 is neutral, 2 is angry. If you try to attack him, his expression changes to this. 3 is sad, 4 is happy, 5 is sick, 6 is maniacal. He makes this expression when he's being an asshole. 7 is surprised, 8 is love, 9 is annoyed, 10 is confused, and 11 is guilty, or hurt. Here are the others that I don't quite understand. 2 of these only appeared once, numbers 1 and 12. And I suspected they might have been in-jokes from the creator. The respective questions were, do you like ice cream, and are you a tough guy? As for the questions in the quiz, luckily I had a notepad and pen handy. I have problems remembering things, so I often carry one around to jot things down, and sometimes I doodle in it when I'm bored. So when the first quiz started, I thought I'd record what happened, and I'm glad I did. Here are the first series of questions, my answers, and Face's reactions. Do you like the game? Yes. Happy reaction. Are you afraid? Yes. Surprised reaction. Are you over 18? Yes. Weird face number 5 reaction. Do birds have teeth? No. Love reaction. Is peanut butter good? No. Sick reaction. Does the moon rotate? Yes. Weird face 11 reaction. Have you had a job? Yes. Reaction is confused. Do you like hurting people? No. Annoyed reaction. Is the sun hot? Yes. Sad reaction. Do you like dogs? Yes. Happy reaction. Is the president good? Yes. Weird face 3 reaction. Does your dog like the president? No. Angry reaction. Tag yourself. 10 if you're a Bella player. If I had to pick any one of these, I'd pick weird reaction number 9 because I'm a frickin' ninja. I'd probably be number 10. Normal face number 10. Now that I've explained all that, it's time for the gameplay. After the quiz level, I tried the new green temple icon first. Thank Rick for the music, by the way. He sent me a whole playlist of scary music. Thank you, Rick. Wow. Maybe this is why the game is so weird. One of the designers was clearly drugged out of his mind. That's the only way to be creative nowadays. You gotta do drugs. Jokes aside, I was really impressed by the graphics of this level. As disorienting as they were, but I hate those creepy blank staring statue faces. It had a hypnotic Indian techno vibe to it. There were 2 new enemies in this level. A flying ghost type thing with a trunk and a bat with a horse skull for a face. These appear at random, but I was lucky enough to get a screen cap of both. Then I proceeded to a Blue Mountain level, expecting another nice, calm stroll. I took my time walking through and was completely taken by surprise when this happened. Not Malgara came speeding towards me and took off quite a bit of health with his tentacle screws. It only took me like 2 minutes to kill him without having to worry about a time limit, but the boss monsters never show up in the scrolling levels in the normal game. I was worried as to what the other rules this game would break. After another Blue Mountain stage, it was time to fight Not Varen, whose replacement was one of the most bizarre things in the game. This is the most bizarre thing in the game, really? This is the weirdest thing that's fucked up so far? The creature attacks you by kicking it and also opening up his chest and firing heat-seeking missiles? I still don't get it. The missiles were sometimes a pain to deal with, but I found out you could tail whip them out of the way. Not Varen was probably the easiest of the monster replacements. The same could not be said for Not Hedorah. Apparently the source of the horse bats, Not Hedorah was the most aggravatingly difficult monster to fight yet. Mostly because of his special ability, he could shriek and summon a small swarm of those horse bat things. I know there's only 2 in the screen cap, but every time he did this, about 10 more would arrive. The AI took advantage of the distraction and attacked twice as fast while the horse bats were flying around. Once that annoyance was over, I went through the Green Temple level to kill some enemies to restore my health. Interestingly, none of the horse bats showed up after it was killed. And that was when I had an idea. If killing all the monsters makes the red face show up, what would happen if I avoid fighting Orga and just go straight to the base? So I gave that a try. The game told me there was no monster there. And immediately afterward, the game took control of my Godzilla piece and moved it in front of Orga. My little trick didn't really work, so I tried to prepare myself for another chase. But first, I had to beat Orga. The fight with Orga confirmed another thing. Whoever created this game hack was clearly a Godzilla fan. And not only because they picked a monster like Orga, but because they actually implemented something that happened in Godzilla 2000 in a really neat way. Orga's primary attacks were a punch and a heat beam from his shoulder cavity, but once you got him down to half his health, he did something new. He would expand his jaws and try to vor Godzilla, in the process stealing your health and energy. But in doing so, he gave himself a new weakness. Firing a heat beam into his mouth would take a devastating 4 bars off his life meter. With that weakness revealed, I soon beat Orga. And despite how much I had hoped otherwise, the red face appeared on the map where the base was. And the music stopped. I readied myself as best as I could. And I started the level. And seeing that it was basically the same thing as the first, I didn't waste a millisecond hauling ass. I soon encountered obstacles in the form of the ground tiles suspended in the air. Most of them you could jump over or destroy, but others you had to crouch under. About 40 seconds into it, I heard the horrible bellowing noise, and I saw the spider beast following close behind me. Stacks of obstacles barely slowed it down. It would back up and then charge its way through them, smashing them into bits. And when the smaller obstacles got in its way, it would expand its jaws and swallow them whole. I was afraid, but with fast thinking and faster button pressing, I escaped him yet again. I felt really excited, and so I laughed, and I said, "Not this time, asshole! This game of tag is boring. I'm out of here." But when I said that sentence, just before the level ended, the monster did something that made my blood run cold. It looked at me. That wave of mortal terror overtook me again. And I sure as hell wasn't laughing anymore. I took another screen cap of the level title right before I rushed to the bathroom to splash some piss on my face. And to take a piss that I nearly failed to contain with that fucking thing looking at me. Dementia. I'm gonna hydrate. I needed that, Poseidon, thank you. It's been 3 chapters and I haven't drank anything. Whenever you stop the music, I shit myself. Boy, you better be ready to shit! You smell that? Me neither. Start shitting. When I got back to the game, I was getting very upset and confused. I thought about the way the monster looked at me. The game couldn't have heard what I said. That's impossible. It had to be a random occurrence, but why did it happen precisely at the moment that Leo stopped the music on the stream? Nothing about this game made any sense. The new Godzilla monsters, the weird replacement monsters, out-of-place imagery like the green temples, quiz levels, red monster chases, it just didn't add up. If it was a prank, it wasn't funny, and they put way too much effort into it. If they were trying to make a genuine sequel with Godzilla's monsters, why did they add everything else? Maybe it was some kind of art experiment, some group project made by a bunch of really talented and crazy people? Or maybe they intended for some random person to find it. As far as I could tell, there was only one way to figure out what the deal with this game was. To play through it to the end. Maybe there would be something in the credits, some explanation by the creators as to why they made this. Or it could be something much more cryptic and strange. Maybe even scary. Before I got a good look at the Dementia board, I considered replaying Trance just to see if the red monster would look at me again, but I decided against it. I needed to keep moving forward. I was also kind of worried that backtracking might cause the game to become even more strange. The Dementia board sounded a lot like the Saturn music, except it was slowed down and played with a piano-esque instrument. Like most of these new maps, it had a dangerous, suspenseful feel to it. While listening to the music again, I looked at the Dementia board. Oh, I already read all that. There were 4 boss monsters this time. Space Godzilla, Manda, Gigan, and Baragon. I was surprised to see there were 2 new Toho monsters this time, but the best surprise was still yet to come. I started the quiz level again. Can you swim? Yes, happy. Do you like fish? Yes, sick. Can penguins fly? No, sad. Can it spin in all directions? There was no clarification of what it meant by it, so I just guessed. No, surprised. Oh. Hang on. I'm like looking through this music quick. There we go. Here's the face music. Do you breathe oxygen? Yes. Weird face 8. Does it taste good when you bite a woman? No. Annoyed. Is it night where you are? Yes. Weird face 6. Do you like cats? Yes. Confused. Is water wet? Yes. Angry. Have you ever broken a bone? No. Happy. Do you like your job? Yes. Hurt. Would you like a new monster? Yes. Weird face 11. I wasn't entirely sure what it meant by new monster, but I couldn't resist answering yes, just to see what would happen. The result was mind-blowing. The game took me back to the board, and I had a new playable monster in the form of Anguirus? I'm gonna need help on that one, y'all. Anguirus. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to play as it, since he was my favorite Godzilla monster, second favorite Godzilla monster, and I never really liked Mothra that much. Hey, Nintendo Tyler Chill, how you doing? I moved my new Anguirus piece to the level right next to it, eager to test out my new monster. Before I get into the level description, I'll talk about him a bit. Using the up and down buttons, you could choose whether he stood in a bipedal stance or crawled around on all fours. Angie. I'll just call him Angie. It wasn't a huge difference, but being able to stand it was helpful in boss fights, and crawling sometimes helped dodge obstacles and attacks. He could punch and kick like Godzilla, but no tail whip. Instead, he had something far more interesting, the ability to curl into a spiked ball of death and roll around. You could still take damage, but it was a lot less. It was a good way of clearing out stage enemies. But unfortunately, doing this also drained the power bar. It wasn't his only special ability, though. When you press start, he would fire a beam of energy from his mouth. It resembled Titanosaurus' sonar attack. If this were a hack, it may have been inspired by the roar attack from Atari's Godzilla fighting games. Also of note is that when playing as Angus, the level meter gets glitched up. Judging by the life and power bar, I'd say he's on level 10. As you might have guessed from the level icon, These levels are green palette swaps of the ground and background tiles from the blue mountains. But what immediately caught my attention was that there was the water, which has a transparency effect. Was that even possible for an NES game? I know the Super Nintendo could do it, but I'd never seen a transparency effect on an NES. The Green Mountains music was also played with the same instrument as the Blue Mountains, but the melody was totally different. It was a very simple song with a lot of abrupt pauses, followed by a loud note every few seconds. Anyway, I went through the usual strolling through the level, and again, there was no monsters or anything, but pretty soon I reached a cliff above the water. There was nowhere to go but into the water, so down I went. The water transparency made things a bit hard to see, but it's tolerable. After going underwater, I encountered 2 new enemies. A giant piranha, and some kind of spiky bottom feeder thing. I liked the piranha because I could easily tell what it was. It was the same enemy design that would appear in a real game, and there were very few enemies like this. It didn't take many hits to kill, but it was kind of annoying, and it could considerably trim down your life if it got close enough. They also tend to travel in packs. As for the bottom feeders, they're easy to deal with. They swim along the bottom of the screen towards you and are easily crushed with a roll attack, or jumped over. In this screen cap, you can see me about to run over one of them, and there's a pack of piranha behind it. God, making me fucking download all these images. Spin dash. After I beat that level, I moved Godzilla over to the blue castle icon. I started the level and got a title screen with the text, Unforgiving Cold. The level itself looked like a castle dungeon made out of blue bricks, with rows of identical white statue faces on the walls. These also had some horrifying look on their face. There was some flickering gray static, which didn't really obscure my vision, but it adds to the unsettling mood of these levels. The music was a 12-second loop of a low-pitched choir vocalizing. It sounded very familiar. Whenever I played through one of these levels, I got this sudden, horrible feeling of anxiety. I had the feeling that the farther I progressed into the level, the closer I was getting to something evil. There weren't any enemies, but there were some of the longest levels in the game. I only played one of them, but it took about 7 minutes to complete. I didn't want to admit it to myself at the time, but I realized something playing the Blue Castle level. This game has the power to make the player feel certain things. Like, horny for Godzilla. When you see that sexy lizard meat, I mean, you just gotta see what it feels like, right? Hang on a second. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I fucking gift someone bits? I'll give you a free ooh-woo voice right now. I don't mean that in the sense that you get irritated playing a crappy game or get unnerved by playing something scary in a game. What I mean is that certain events in this game can instantly make you start feeling something. Like getting really horny for Godzilla. I know that sounds completely insane. I don't blame you for not believing me, but I wouldn't believe any of this evil if I didn't play the game myself. But there was something very, very wrong with this game. I still don't know how to explain it. So then it was time to fight Baragon's replacement. Although Baragon was originally the smallest monster in the game, his replacement was the largest. It was so tall, in fact, that the ground was noticeably lowered, and not Baragon's head was still barely avoided collision with the bar at the top of the screen. He was just as frighteningly bizarre as he was huge. You may be wondering how he attacks me without arms. Well, he has one of the most powerful kicks in the game. But his other fighting technique is much stranger. First, he blasts a cloudy breath of pixels down at you, which cause you to freeze. Then he walks back to the right of the screen and extends a huge Gatling gun from his abdomen. That might seem amusing to you, but it certainly wasn't to me when I was playing the game. This attack is almost as annoying as Gigan's Saw, and not Bewagon could have been unbeatable if he consistently used it. Thankfully, he only did it twice while fighting him. Once you unfreeze, you can run up and start damaging the gun, which does extra damage to him. This helped me to destroy him, and then it was time to play the third level type. I decided I was going to use Angie to fight Manda and Gigan, and then fight Space Godzilla as Godzilla. It was only filling. I'm not doing the voice anymore. Before getting into the battle, I'll describe the third level type, the Arctic. The Arctic is exactly what you'd guess from the name, just an icy tundra with a few watery segments. The music reminded me a bit of Northern Hemispheres from Donkey Kong Country, but in 8-bit form. A very dangerous sounding song. It made me think about being trapped in a tundra and freezing to death. There were 2 new enemies in this stage. The first was a creature frozen in a block of ice. They block your way and you have to use the heat beam to thaw them out of the ice. They look like a smaller version of not Gazora, but without the eye. When they freed, they do a strange crawling motion and they push you backwards. It doesn't cause any damage, but it's kind of annoying. After dealing with the Iceman, I kept walking for a minute or two and came upon this water segment. I jumped in, and this time I managed to get a screen cap showing how the water splashes when you jump in. I don't know how they programmed it, but it's pretty impressive. Another interesting thing is how the screen changes focus when you go underwater. You can also see the new enemy. I call it a Spike Walker. They walk towards you and explode randomly, or instantly if you attack them, sending spikes in every direction. They don't do much damage, but they did get me dangerously close to falling into a pit a few times. Oh, down into the water, the game has a platformer element, bottomless pits. There weren't any of these in the original game, since it was strictly an action game, but the pits were a neat addition. I'm built like that, not gonna lie. It's like those things from Mega Man X. If you look like this, DM me. After getting back on land, I encountered a very unexpected mini-boss, Maguma, the walrus kaiju. Oh, he's cute! Okay, stop the immersion for a second. This is cute. I like this little dude. The little walrus man. That's adorable. I love him. I know this game has some obscure monsters to begin with, but wow. I mean, not that I'm complaining, it's a cool cameo for an underappreciated kaiju. His fighting tactics were very simple. He had a freeze beam, and he could charge into you. Not very challenging, but certainly more entertaining than the Matango mini-boss in the original game. One really interesting thing about him is that he doesn't die when you defeat him. He just turns tail and retreats. This is the first time I've seen an enemy monster change direction, let alone retreat. I tried to chase after him, but he disappeared after I got in the water. Poor bastard. And that does it for the Arctic. I'll talk about the Manda fight next. It was a fairly crafty opponent. When it realized one tactic was ineffective, it would immediately change to a different one. Is that the guy from Spirited Away? He used quite a few tricks, like spitting fire, biting, and the most irritating of all, constricting. Excuse me. It doesn't mercilessly drain your life down like Gigan's Cutter, but it was by far its strongest attack. One last thing to note that I thought was pretty cool. The Atragon showed up during the fight to help me out. Amanda crushed it with ease, but it was still pretty cool. Manda, like from the Grim Adventures. After I slayed Manda, I played through an Arctic level for health power-ups, and then it was on to Gigan's replacement. When the fight started, I was really confused. There was nothing here. I thought this was going to be like the Titanosaurus fight. Okay, that's 15 minutes, good. I thought this was going to be like the Titanosaurus fight in Pathos, but just about the time it would have been going back to the map, a piranha appeared on screen. But it wasn't there for long. As soon as it appeared, the speakers emitted an ear-splitting screech, and Not Gigan flew in and ripped the poor fish into pieces. Well, that's one way to get the player on their toes. The abrupt entrance scared the hell out of me and got my adrenaline running fast, which in retrospect was a good thing, because it was one of the fastest and most unrelenting opponents in the game. It was tough, but with my new skills with Engi, still don't know how to pronounce its name, helped to even the score. This is still an incredibly intense fight. Its attacks consist of some sort of blood laser that he spews from his mouth, and a downward slash. I was expecting some hellish variant of the buzzsaw attack, but thankfully there didn't seem to be one. The howl attack was invaluable in defeating him. I would have taken more screen caps of the fight, but I really had to concentrate. After that, there was just one monster left to take down. Space Godzilla. And as I mentioned earlier, I used Godzilla for this fight. Its fighting technique was kind of frustrating, but a really clever idea. It would use its energy to create two flying crystals, which would then reach the ground and become crystal spires. They not only block you, Anguirus. That's really it, huh? You were right, Rick. I'm sorry. I should have just followed the path. Anguirus. Okay. It allowed you to constantly recharge to full energy and blast you with a deadly, fully charged Corona beam until you broke the spires. It would eventually drain down its own spires of energy until they shattered, but if you waited for that to happen, you'd probably lose a lot of life. Heat beams seemed to re-energize the spires, so you had to use physical attacks. Once you get close enough to hit him, he was no pushover. When I punched him, he hit me back just as hard. He did everything in his power to knock you back into the left corner of the screen, so he can create more spires. By the time it was over, I only had about 5 life bars left. It didn't really matter because I didn't need to fight anymore. I needed to run. Here we go again. I decided right then and there that I really wanted to see the end of the game. As terrifying as these levels could be, I had to beat them to get through. I decided that no matter what happened, no matter what the game showed me, I was going to get to the end. And I also made sure not to say a fucking word while being on a chase level from here on. For the chase, I tried out Anguirus, since his roll attack allowed me to move faster than Godzilla or Mothra. The chase started off like the first two, but there was a river of blood below the ground. I was beginning to get the hang of it, and the extra speed from the roll helped me get an edge on the red monster. Especially since I didn't have to worry about a power limit. Oh, thank you, Rick. Like the previous levels with water, the ground inevitably reached a stop. So I rolled off into the blood. To my surprise, the Hell's Beast didn't follow after me. It just stopped at the edge of the ground and grimaced. I guess it can't swim, I thought to myself. So I went under blood and continued moving. There wasn't anything around, but I knew something was up. The chase wasn't going to end that easily, could it? Surely something else had to show up, and sure enough, I heard the bellowing roar, sounding slightly different. And the monster was following me in a new aquatic body. Haters will see you chase down a Godzilla and say, he can't even swim. I had no idea it was a shapeshifter. After it appeared, the chase started to get more difficult. Being submerged slowed me down, putting me and the beast at about the same speed. The only thing that would keep me alive was fast thinking and reflexes. I encountered some bottomless pit in which mines floated up from. I assumed that if you hit one, it would damage you and knock you back, and considering how fast the red monster swims, hitting the mines would be instant death. But that wasn't all I had to be wary of. Halfway through the chase, the Hell Beast revealed yet another surprise. A tentacle form. Formed of intestines and tipped with a clawed set of jaws. The tentacle burst from its mouth, trying to pull me in and devour me. I only barely avoided both the tentacle and the mines, but I could tell the beast was getting desperate, because the chase was nearly over. I shapeshift into a wet version of myself. and about a minute later I had spotted a bit of ground that served as the exit. I leaped with all the might I could muster without breaking my controller. The beast screamed with rage and jumped out of the blood river in one last attempt to drag me down, but I escaped its grasp. This time. I fell back on my bed and took a deep breath, satisfied with yet another successful escape. Now I was headed to the fifth world. Entropy. I'm taking a break. Wait, hang on. How many fucking parts are there to this world? This was kind of long. let me get a drink of water. I want to keep going. You can share a few fun facts. I would, if you want to like DM those to me or something, I'd fucking love to read those. What's the time estimate? We are on part 5 of 8. Plus an epilogue. In the original game, the sixth world was Pluto. I'm gonna go back to Donkey Kong music because that was nice. Ironically, despite being the smallest planet, you're gonna have to head to bed. Have a good night, Poseidon Rex. Thank you for stopping by. Be safe. Despite being the smallest planet, Pluto was the largest and the most diverse. Change tabs. And the most diverse world in the game. You can send them over Discord. That's fine. Or Twitter DMs might also work, whatever's best for you. The board music was played by a violin instrument, a melody that started out sounding mournful, and then it gets rather, I guess you'd call it distorted? It made me feel depressed and unnerved. Not something I would want to hear while I'm trying to fall asleep. Strangely, none of these levels from the previous worlds were here. Instead, there were 8 brand new icons. This time's the bosses this time were Megalon, Batra, and Mechagodzilla. Oh fuck, not Mechagodzilla. As usual, the first thing I did was go to the quiz level for another interrogation from Face. Why did I close that window? I need that music again. Do you like ice cream? Yes, Weird Face 1. Do you like clowns? Yes, Weird Face 10. You know what, that one actually checks out. I'll give that a pass. Is time slipping through your fingers? Yes, Weird Face 2. See, when he talks about Face, I keep thinking like the fucking guy from Nick Jr. Do you have any regrets? Yes, Hurt. Do some people deserve to die? Yes, Weird Face 3. Weird Face 3 is like an anti-pog. Look at that. Is it safe to go out at night? Yes, Weird Face 5. It's kind of cringe, bro. Do you find it hard to sleep at night? Yes, Weird Face 9. Have you ever killed anyone? No, Weird Face 7. Do you want to kill anyone? No. Angry. Are you actually accomplishing anything? No. Weird Face 4. Does life have any real meaning? No. Love. Do you like Mothra? No. Maniacal. I knew that last one was going to be a gameplay related question. Hey, Godzilla player! Whoop, Face here! Coming up next is a running from a spider monster! Christ, Rick. I knew that last one was going to be a gameplay related question, but I had no idea what the result would be. I answered honestly because, as I said before, I never really liked Mothra in the first place. Nobody liked playing as Mothra in this game, and there was a good reason for that. Every time Mothra got hit, she would slam back to the left corner of the screen, and she sucks at fighting because her attacks are so weak. The only benefit she had was being able to fly over obstacles in some levels. So I answered no, and Face replied back to me, not only with a maniacal expression, but with text. It said, "Too bad." I was taken back to the map screen, and I was shocked to see that Godzilla and Anguirus had disappeared from the board, leaving only Mothra. Face had just fucked me over, and needless to say I was pissed, but there wasn't anything I could do. And I'm willing to bet that even if I had said yes, I would have been stuck with her anyway. Face giveth, and face taketh away. I took a deep breath and got ready to explore. There were 2 paths I could take through the board, and I decided to take the lower one. This turned out to be a good choice for reasons I'll get to momentarily. The first world ahead of me was a forest, so I started there. Almost immediately, I got this eerie feeling. There was something about this level that just seemed off to me. Now is when he starts getting suspicious, of course. Perhaps it was the pitch black background. I've always been afraid of being in a forest at night. Something about those trees just makes me feel surrounded and vulnerable. And the fact that I was stuck as Mothra didn't fucking help. Playing the game's previous worlds as Godzilla gave me a feeling of bravery, being in control of the king of monsters. I'd be able to handle just about anything in my way. Okay, pause from the immersion. That's the corniest shit. No one feels like that when you play video games. No one's like, but Mario's not supposed to be hurt. I feel brave when I play as Godzilla. No, you fucking don't. It's Godzilla for the fucking NES. Chill the fuck out. Come on. But it's not like that with Mothra. No feeling of strength or security. And now I'm just a weak, easily overwhelmed, sexy, frankly, very attractive bug. Traversing into the unknown. Back to the level. The music had new instruments, like woodwinds, followed by some slow, rhythmic drums and chiming bells. It gave me this feeling that I was intruding into some dangerous place that I really shouldn't be. After a while, I encountered the first enemies of the stage, or at least I assumed they were enemies. They were strange, long-legged, deer-like creatures. And instead of attacking, they were just walking around. I went to approach them, but they ran away. Probably because I'm a giant fucking moth. I thought about shooting one with an I-beam, but that seemed wrong. These creatures were harmless, so I passed over them and continued through the level. About halfway through, I encountered the groups of deer-like animals, and also 2 new creatures. A sloth-like creature with a beak climbing on a tree, and some hairy raptor-esque beasts that were preying on the deer. It was really surreal watching these creatures interact. I didn't feel like I was playing a video game, but like I was traveling through a forest in some other dimension. The creatures ignored me for the most part, although the raptors did attack me when I got too close, or if I attacked them first. I know I shot one of them trying to help one of the deer creatures escape. I got clawed at, but the confrontation was easily avoided by flying up to the top of the screen. After that, I had to choose whether I wanted to play the levels with the Hourglass or the TV screen. I picked the latter, and what I got was not at all what I expected. When I pressed the button to start a level on the TV screen like I normally would, this screen with an animation popped up. There was also some music in the background, which was the goofy music that used to be playing in the quiz levels. I was somewhat unsettled by this because it was just so strange. I also found it a little bit spooky because I had a shirt that looked just like that when I was a kid. After starting the animation, you could go back to the board by pressing any button. After that, I had no idea what to expect. I went to try an hourglass icon instead. It was somewhat relieved when an actual level came up. It was certainly unorthodox looking. All brown with time measuring instruments floating in the air and gigantic grandfather clocks in the background. The music was the same as the board screen. And early in the level I encountered something I didn't expect to see. Original enemies in the game. And not just that, it seemed to be a whole fleet of them, like yellow tanks that were normally immobile, but they were moving now. I took some damage, but it was nothing I couldn't handle. The most interesting thing about this level was the colored hourglass items. There were 3 of these. A blue hourglass that made time slow down and filled the level with enemies from the past. A red hourglass that made time speed up and filled the level with enemies from the future. And a green hourglass. It didn't really do anything, it just made me green. It set the time normal, and it filled the level with original game enemies. I encountered the blue hourglass first, and as stated, the game started to slow down, and I saw the enemies from the past. Okay, sorry. Which were 5 different types of prehistoric animals. I don't know much about prehistory, but I believe all of these enemies represent real animals. Yeah, I mean, yes. Sorry, dude. Breaking immersion again. Yes, these were real animals at some point. The level went into another segment, and I encountered the green hourglass, and then I fought the original enemies again. It was the same 5 types, so I didn't take any screenshots, but in the last segment I encountered the red hourglass, and the enemies that must have been from the future. Now, whether or not the game was showing me 8-bit renditions of creatures that will actually exist thousands of years into Earth future, I have no idea. But with that thought in mind, I found this particular segment to be very eerie. And it was made more tense because everything started moving faster. Godzilla Protag is kind of a fucking idiot. New music. Thank God for Rick. Oops, that's the wrong tab. One of the future enemies bore a striking resemblance to something I saw in a book once called the Trudon Man. Another looked like some kind of organic spaceship. There was only one of the 5th type of creature, and when it appeared, all of the others started running for their lives, leaving me to battle it alone. I don't think they would have helped you anyways, buddy. Sorry, you're kind of a loser. It could fly, but its sprite didn't actually move, and its single attack was firing a bolt from its face. Even so, it was surprisingly powerful, and I suppose it could be considered a mini-boss? After feeding it, it had left a little health power-up that restored the health and energy I had lost fighting it. Which was convenient. It seemed I would need all the help I could get to beat this world with Mothra alone. After the previous stage that I call Time Warp, the next stage appeared to be some sort of toxic waste dump. Oh, here we go. Yeah, climate change. What, next you're gonna tell me that Godzilla's all about climate change and toxic waste? Get fucking real. Come on. As you can see, the place looked grungy and inhospitable. The music was a short looping of an ambient synthesizer song. Listening to it made me feel like I had sniffed some toxic fumes myself, and it was messing with my head the whole time. I felt like I was toked up, you know, like like I was high from weed, from a weed drug. I even felt like I was choking while I was playing this level. The enemies all seem to be mutated to some degree. You could see green mummies with bird skulls that jump out of the waist to spit projectiles. There's also some brown cow skeleton monster with spider legs. Halfway through the level, I even saw one of the deer from the forest, but it was alone. And when I saw it, it was drinking toxic waste out of a barrel with an anteater-like tongue. It's called a proboscis. I was moving over to try to make it stop, but this flock of skull birds came out of nowhere and started attacking it. The deer was scared and it ended up running off the ground into the toxic waste. I feel kind of bad for it. One of the birds bit me, but I regained health quickly from killing all of them. They were pretty weak. I'm tough. Pretty tough. I pressed onward. Of all the levels in Entropy, this was probably the most normal. There was little deviance from the move forward and smash things formula in the original game. I encountered more creatures from the level, and some deformed thing with human-like teeth. I didn't feel like provoking it into a fight, so I kept flying near the top of the screen until I had to deal with the occasional flock of birds now and then. At the end of this level was a large bluish-green lake, and I encountered another mini-boss. Some kind of a monster with a long neck. It attacks with a mouth projectile and by charging at you. It could also go underneath the water and rapidly emerge from a different place. It was harder to beat than the boss from Time Warp, and it had a lot of health, because it must have taken me 3 minutes to beat it. It let out this really loud noise when it died, and then it sank back into the water as I left the screen. Back on the board, I went to the nearest level icon I hadn't seen yet, which was a white tree. As I guessed, the level was a winter-themed recolor of the forest stage. I'm gonna need something spooky to start happening, or I'm gonna take a drink of water. I'm actually gonna do that now. But unlike the regular forest, I didn't feel unnerved starting this one. I think the music had a lot to do with it. It was a gentle, calm song. Why did I close the Donkey Kong Forest music tab? There we go. I don't feel unnerved at all. I traveled through the first segment enjoying the atmosphere for 4 minutes when suddenly I realized something. I hadn't seen a single creature since I started the level. Where are all the animals? Soon after I left the screen and the next segment started. In the second segment I was still in the winter forest, but now the music was just gone. I was starting to feel suspicious, but then I reminded myself that there were other empty levels in the game, and this was likely one of those. Then I heard something familiar. It was this 12-second looping music from Unforgiving Cold started up. I could feel my heart sink as I came across this horrible sight. It was a whole group of dead deer creatures covered in snow. Judging on the blackish blue tone of their skin, they must have all frozen to death. On closer inspection, some of them were missing body parts. Now I was frightened, but I still had to keep going. Before exiting the level, I was really hoping to see something resembling the previous forest animals living in a living state. And sure enough, I did. It was a creature like the beaked sloth, but this time it had white fur and more of a beaked gorilla look. It was walking really slowly, but I was happy to see that something was alive. However, it didn't stay that way for long. Dun dun dun! Ah, no! Not pixelated blood. A pack of raptors who must have sensed that something was still alive came rushing in from the right side of the screen. The gorilla didn't stand a chance, as one of the raptors immediately lunged at it and fucked its brains out. These winter raptors acted far different from the temperate relatives. While the other raptors only attacked while hunting prey or when provoked, the winter raptors seemed to have all gone insane. I don't think you can identify the behavior of pixel animals that well, my friend. Even the noises they made sound different, more high-pitched and enraged. As I left the segment, I saw two raptors fighting to the death. They were both covered in injuries, and one of the raptors had been blinded in one eye. I didn't stay to see who won the fight. I only had to get through one segment before I could get back to the board screen, but in this segment I was no longer in the winter forest, but instead just an empty, grassy plain, with a bright gray moon in the sky. The pleasant music of Winter Forest Part 1 had returned. Pleasant music. I keep forgetting this isn't pleasant music. High-pitched equals insane, I guess. Yeah, they're just like fucked up and twisted. Like seriously like twisted psychopaths. Immediately I started to feel dread. This is gonna sound crazy, but it's the absolute truth. The game made this level from one of my memories. After a long stretch of nothing, I reached a lake, and then the moon moved down from the sky and began to hatch like an egg. When it did, a curled up humanoid figure fell into the lake as the moon halves quickly disintegrated. I heard a splash when it hit the water. And then a moment of silence. The screen began to shake, and a new creature emerged from the water. And thus, I was introduced to a monster that I call the Moon Beast. This is the only screenshot I took, because I was focusing all my concentration on winning the fight. But not on the other fights. I was able to take screenshots of all of their attacks, you know, for reference. Stronger than any of the previous bosses, this creature would have been hard to take down with Godzilla, and with Mothra, it seemed impossible. I suppose I would have considered myself fortunate that the beast lacked any attacks like the Gigant saw, but if it had, I would have never won this. I barely had 3 bars of health left when I finally killed this abomination. But what happened afterward is hardly what I would call a reward. I've been trying to keep my promise and suppress this memory for years, but it seems as if I have to get this off my chest. This is a very painful memory for me, but the game already knows about it, and I think you should too. This is me, Leo, talking. This isn't the thing. Back when I was in middle school, I had a girlfriend named Melissa. She suffered from some kind of mental disorder that caused her to go into episodes, like Persona 4. When she was in an episode, she would stand or sit perfectly straight and still, and her face would lose any expressions she had before. She would speak very clearly without any hint of emotion, and when it was over, she would start trembling and sometimes bury her face in her hands, and remain silent for several minutes. I can't really convey the feeling it gave me in words, and I won't try. But despite this, she was a very kind person, and I cared about her dearly. We liked to hang out in a field at night, and look at the stars. But one night, she didn't say anything to me at all. She just stared directly into the moon, trembling. I tried to talk to her, but she suddenly sprang up and ran right into traffic. I tried to stop her, but it was too late. She got hit by a truck and was killed that night. I looked her right in the eyes when the wheels went over her neck. That sight has always haunted me. I know that the game knows about this, because after I defeated the Moon Beast, this happened. After that, the game went back to the board screen. It was all I could do not to burst out screaming, and my hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the controller. I knew that the game was going to test me if I kept playing, but I had no idea it would go so far, or that it was even capable of doing what it just did. Did the game just read my mind? That didn't seem possible, but what other explanation was there? I could no longer deny what now seemed obvious. The game is alive. And not only that, it can also establish some kind of mental connection with the player. But I couldn't convince myself to stop playing. I don't know if the game was messing with my mind or just my stupid, stubborn curiosity, but even with the previous revelation, I wanted to see this through to the end. Even more than I did before I'd beat dementia. Terrifying as it might be, even dangerous, I knew that if I quit playing, I would never be able to stop thinking about it. If I try to restart the game, it might go back to being normal again. How many people ever get to witness something like this firsthand? Let alone be able to document it. Fucked up as it was, this is the experience of a lifetime. But even so, I couldn't take any chances with my health. I had the TV remote right next to me, ready to turn the TV off in case I felt like I was in actual danger. And if that didn't work, I would pull the plug out of the wall or just run out of the room. Whatever powers this game has, it seemed to be confined to what it can show on the TV, and whatever its mental connection could do. The latter was what worried me. I still didn't know what I was dealing with, so I wasn't about to underestimate it. I took a break for a few minutes to calm my nerves, and then it was back to the game. Speaking of TVs, there was a TV screen icon right below the white forest after I had just left. And because the first animation was so bizarre, I actually figured I'd try to see what happens. And although I expected the same animation, I actually got a totally different one. Weird. I'm gonna take a drink, I'm sorry. Be sure to hydrate when you're reading a fucking novel for 2 hours straight. Oh, soundtrack change. Hell yeah. Neptune. The music for this one was the Neptune board music. Fitting, I suppose, since it's a fishman and all. I can't help but wonder what the point of these things are. There was one more TV screen icon, so I figured it must have a unique animation of its own. I was gonna make sure to see what it was before I left Entropy. It was time for another level. The gold brick icon was the closest thing, so I went to that, and I started up in some kind of Gold Labyrinth stage. My health and power were refilled. Not sure how or why, but I was glad to be heading in the unknown I was glad not to be heading in the unknown nearly dead. I also noticed that my tiny Mothra sprite had shrunk to half its original size. The music was a slow, ominous drum beat. Enough of that music, I guess. Fuck me. The Gold Labyrinth itself was an anomaly. I'm not sure how this level would have played out if I was using Godzilla or Anguirus, but flying seemed necessary just to get around this place. Another thing that caught my attention was when you go left, your monster actually turns and faces the left. That sounds stupidly obvious, but in the original game, you were only supposed to move to the right, so when you tried to move left, your monster just walked backwards. There's our fucking drum beats. Where's the tab? This level was gigantic in size. Every time I thought I'd reach an end to it, or thought I was going to end up back where I started, I encountered something totally new. Like lava blockades, new enemies, statue faces. I found one statue face at a dead end with a wide, open-eyed stare. The night Melissa died, she had an expression on her face that looked exactly like this. Except she was like way hotter. Her tits were huge. She's in middle school, I can't say that. Never mind. she died like this. She died as she lived, with her eyes wide open. Even when she got hit by the truck, she still had that same expression. I can't help but feel like something really is staring at me from behind the screen when I look at this. I really didn't want to be reminded of that night anymore. But I kept playing the fucking game, I guess. So I left the statue almost as soon as I found it. I needed to find the exit anyway, which proved to be no simple task. I felt like this level stretched on forever in all directions. I must have wandered around the level for like 15 minutes before I finally saw something. It was a creature... Oh, I didn't actually show the scene. Whoops. That's what Melissa looked like when she died, everyone. I wandered the level for 15 minutes before I saw something else. A creature that wasn't entirely gold. Lacking any kind of hover ability like the other creatures, it just sort of walked back and forth on the platform. It wasn't long that I found a flying machine, swooped down and grabbed it, and then flew off with it. The machine had apparently not seen me, so I decided to follow it to see where it was taking the creature. The machine stopped at a large cauldron-like object in the center. The machine hovered over to the cauldron and dropped the creature onto it. You got any games on your phone? Me when I am looking respectfully. The creature emerged from a hole in the cauldron's side, now adorned in the same gold color like everything else. It flew off. I'm not really sure what to make of this, but I'm glad I came upon it, because I found the exit soon after. Neat. That won't come up at all. When I got back to the board, I realized that the bosses hadn't moved at all. A bit odd, but it didn't really bother me. It made my planning my route through Entropy easier. There were still 2 new icons to explore, the Indigo Cliffs and a black version of the Labyrinth. Since there were only 3 black Labyrinth icons, I played Indigo Cliffs first. Okay, this is the same 4 notes. I'm switching to another song. Do I have this one open? I don't. That's fucking scary. Let's set that on loop. It was a lot like the Blue-Green Mountains. The level graphics had the same shredded look to it. Like cheese. There's a recolor of the clouds and the moon from the toxic waste dump. The music was merely a deep rumbling noise. Hey, we picked a good one. One of the first things I encountered were these multicolored creatures with big heads emerging from a small cave in the ground. They all made this synchronized shaking sound, and they walked to the right in a group after emerging from the cave, ignoring me completely. Rude. They looked like these little dudes from Spirited Away. They're kind of cute. I like them. Maybe if they didn't have so many holes on their head. Having no other way to go, I followed them on their route. More and more emerged from the cave until the group had about 100 of them. Eventually it ended in a cliff. I was shocked to see that upon reaching the cliff, all of the creatures jumped off into the abyss. Now, I've seen enemies walk off cliffs before, but I've never seen NPCs commit mass suicide like this. Very unsettling way to start off a level. There's a fucking game called Lemmings that does this, dude. I continued on, flying over various strange animals like the ones shown here. Another group of multicolored bobbleheads was jumping around, only to be snatched up by large birds, which I'm fairly certain are the sprite versions of the giant condor from Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. I defeated some of the condors in battle, but it bothered me that the bobbleheads seemed so eager to die. If the game itself is alive, perhaps the creatures in these levels are also alive? And some have very unhappy lives if this behavior is any indication, but what provokes them to do this? In the back of my mind, I almost suspected the glowing moon in the sky is the reason. At the end of the level, I saw yet another group of the bobbleheads, marching up to a large monster and being devoured. This was starting to disgust me. As someone with high morals and just a can-do attitude, this made me sick. Ugh. Bits and bytes in a video game getting devoured by other bits and bytes? I acted on impulse, fired off I-beams from my eyes and destroyed my TV. I destroyed the cave. The monster became angry and ran through the remaining bobbleheads to fight me. Although it lacked any ranged attacks, it was relentless. But it was no match for me. I was in the home stretch now, up to the bosses. My plan was to go through Batra first, and then Megalon. After that, I would watch the last TV screen and play the Black Labyrinth before fighting Mechagodzilla. And lastly, going through the chase with the Hellbeasts, of course. I was curious to see if they would be in a new form again. But first things first, time to beat up Batra. As expected, he started off in his larva form. The music was Varen's battle theme. Hang on. I was unprepared for a new boy. Whenever the game puts in a new Godzilla kaiju with more than one form, that other form always shows up. For a game that's otherwise inexplicable, it's rather startling in its consistency and accuracy with the new kaiju bosses. The fight started off simple. Larva Batra fought in a similar fashion as Magma did, charging back and forth and occasionally firing off lightning from its horn, as you do. During the fight, I noticed that its combat capabilities had been altered in my favor, or Mothra's combat capabilities. The Eye-Beams did double damage, and the poison powder was similarly improved. It did this nice thing where it would actually hit an enemy when you used it. In the original game, even though Mothra could fly, she was unable to fly over an opponent. You would get knocked back the same way you did if you ran straight into them, which was very annoying. But not anymore. I could change direction and fly around, which was a huge help because fighting an Imago Batra was much like fighting a clone Mothra, although Batra is distinctly faster and stronger. No longer impeded by its slow-moving larva form, Imago Batra was a fearsome opponent. Although it lacked the horn lightning, it now had a new, more powerful I-beam. Batra could change direction just like I could, so this battle involved a lot of flipping and flying around. It was pretty fun, to be honest. I don't think you could do that on an NES. Sorry, dude. So after, well, it's alive, so that makes sense. I was excited to see what Megalon would be like, but I went through an Indigo Cliffs level and shot through a lot of the creatures for health power-ups. So, about Megalon. His music was Gigan's theme, which makes sense, since Gigan was his battle partner in Megalon's one and only film appearance so far. I don't know if that's true anymore. I don't know enough about Godzilla to know if that's true. He was a lot like Maugera, but faster and with more weapons. He started off charging with his drills, and I liked to fly back and forth around him, which seemed to annoy him. After a few seconds, he'd step back, turn around, and start spitting out more grenades. Those were a pain because they would bounce when they hit the ground. He started spamming his lightning beam. It only went straight forward, so it was easy to duck under and then shoot him with his eye beams. Overall, I'd describe him as strong, persistent, and dumb. Just like me! I was nearing the end of Entropy. I had just taken down Megalon, and I started up the TV screen. Ignore that. I started up the last TV screen just to see what I'd get this time. The result was unpleasant. Hang on, where's the fucking music? Sorry to break immersion. I need the music. I couldn't figure out why this animation was so sinister and violent in comparison to the other two. The whole game seems to be growing more malevolent and fucked up and twisted. As I went on to finish Entropy, I began to feel drained. It's hard to describe, like I'd suddenly become tired when I wasn't before. That's called... Have you not lived a day in your life? Most likely it was just the tension from all that had happened in this game getting to me, but who knows. The last level on Entropy was what I call the Shadow Labyrinth. The scenery was recolored from gold to black. The music was an evil ambient, similar to how Unforgiving Cold Loop, but distinctly different. So not similar at all. The music was my first sign that this level was going to be distressing. I traveled through the maze for about a minute, and I noticed that there weren't any creatures hovering around. It was an odd transition from the Gold Labyrinth, which was overrun with creatures. But this level had nothing at all. Maybe there wouldn't be any obstacles and I could just get through the level with ease. And then the screen went dark. I immediately snapped out of my daze from a few seconds earlier. Everything had been darkened, so that only thing I could see was the Mothra sprite. I couldn't tell where I was going, and I ended up frantically running into walls. I heard a noise and the sound of a crowd running through a hallway. And along with the running came the roars. The loud roaring sounds, which I would describe as something like a rabid dog, the size of an elephant, and screaming with fury. You know, something you've heard before. And I could tell that whatever was making this noise, there was a lot of them. Vector, there's a lot of them. I knew that something was there, but it wasn't until I did some screen cap editing that I got to see what my pursuers looked like. I swear to God, there's a fursona that looks just like this. I see it on my timeline every fucking day. He's always doing raffles for people to fuck his fursona. But at the time, I couldn't see where they were or where I was going. I was literally running blind, and this mob of beasts eventually caught up with me. All I could think was, no! As I saw... Sorry. That's the only thing you could think was no. As I saw my life bar rapidly declining. The monsters had taken me down to half my total health. When I was saved, the light came back on, and the attackers disappeared. And so the challenge was revealed. Find the exit before the lights go out, and a pack of monsters maul you to death. I was in panic mode now. Just now. Moving as fast as I could while trying every path I could find for a way out. As I played through the level, the lights went out a total of 3 times. And the second time, I would have been dead meat had it not been for one of the wide-eye statues. I stayed close to it, and the monsters seemed to avoid me until the light came back. The statue warded them away somehow. I was safe as long as I stayed near it, but at the same time, I had to find the exit. The Shadow Labyrinth turned out to be much smaller than the Gold Labyrinth, as it only took about 6 minutes to navigate to the end. But before the exit, there was a row of halls leading straight down, with no way out once you entered. You either got to the exit before the monsters reached you, or you died. You either get to the exit in real life, or you die in real life. Thankfully, I made it out. Only one more boss now, Mechagodzilla. I started the battle, and I got something unexpected. Not only did my life shoot back up to 100%, but instead of a replacement boss, I was fighting Godzilla. Any Godzilla fan worth their salt can figure this out. Mechagodzilla started off like fighting a clone Godzilla, but his disguise burned away after only 3 life bars. Usually a transformation only occurred at like a halfway point. Oh my god! Oh my god, you guys! Gay rights. Gay rights, gay rights, gay rights. At this point, it was fighting Mechagodzilla in the normal game. It felt kind of nice to fight one of the original game enemies for a change. Although he wasn't exactly like normal, he also had a rainbow beam and finger missiles. Gay rights, that's what we got, dude. So we don't fuck with gays. This prevented me from doing the old trick of backing him in a corner and hitting him with I-beams in a spot where he can't hit me, but that was always a cheap trick anyways. After getting him down to half health, something weird started to happen. You don't fucking say. His sprite started to glitch in much the same way as Ghidorah had way back in the first world. After a few seconds, the glitches began to form a new shape. That ain't Godzilla! And thus the game had created not Mechagodzilla, and I discovered that this visual glitch was somehow related to the game recreating things. The human face on this one gave me a very uncanny look. It looked like my father. It doesn't say that. He didn't say that. It was one of the stronger replacement monsters, and it had the most firepower. Pictured here is its mouth beam, which I was...
Go!
Hey! Oops, it's Bella. Thanks for following me. You can't see it behind the photos, but you're there. Even though it was a bit stronger, it was also slower than its original counterpart, and it couldn't jump around as much. I won the fight by constantly staying out of its line of fire, bombarding the machine with poison powder as I flew over it. One last thing to do. The Hellbeast chase. Oh boy! Might as well just get this one over with, I thought. The Entropy End chase ended up being exactly what I was afraid it would be. A labyrinth level. All the other chases, although difficult, were extremely straightforward. You just had to run to the right and not get touched. But this took all the simplicity out of it. There was no telling how big this labyrinth would be or where the exit was. And now not only did I have to constantly backtrack to find my way out, I also had to avoid getting one-hit killed by the red monster. And for the first 30 seconds, it just didn't show up. But I knew it would. As I started picking up the pace, I heard a loud flapping noise. And there it was, in a flying form. It flew with bat-like wings, and it was fast and relentless as ever. For reasons already stated, this was probably the most nerve-wracking of all the end chases, and as such I had to keep my focus on the game and not take screen caps. However, I did take one of the red monster doing something interesting. I managed to lose it by going through a different path than it apparently had expected. And it was blocked from attacking me by one of the organic walls of the red labyrinth. Or so I thought. It tried clawing through the walls for a second before it opened up its mouth and tore the wall apart with its intestine jaws. But those brief milliseconds that the monster was held back might have just been the key to help me find the exit. The path to the exit was long and complex, but from what I remember, I went up and then back towards the left. I'm still not sure why I chose a particular way. Just a lucky hunch, I suppose. I was sweating profusely. Gross. But my luck had saved me yet again. I hoped it wouldn't run out before I finished the game. There were only 2 more worlds to go. The next was the penultimate world, called Extus. Y'all were talking shit earlier about a luck test. This motherfucker just passed. In the brief instant before the transition between Entropy and Extus, I was hoping that I would get Godzilla and Anguirus back. As the board appeared, I saw that my wish was half granted. I had Godzilla back, but no Anguirus. I would have preferred both, but despite his neat abilities, I would have chosen Godzilla anyways. Extus had 2 different colored temples, white and pink. A pyramid, which looked like some modern buildings, and 2 other icons. The new bosses were Kumonga, Gorosaurus, and not Ghidorah, whom I was kind of dreading to see, let alone fight. Is it Ghidorah or Ghidorah? With Godzilla back, I was excited again and eager to explore, yet still cautious. I went to the quiz level first, just as before. This time, Face's questions were more random than ever. Wait. Oh god, I have to scroll down so far for the expressions. Boop, bop. There we go. Do elephants breathe? Yes. Weird face 2. Have you ever been hurt by a family member? No. Weird face 6. Have you ever hurt anyone? No. Weird face 8. Is green your favorite color? No. Weird face 10. Yeah, same. Is the computer the pinnacle of modern technology? Yes. Weird face 4. Are you a tough guy? Are you a bad enough dude to kiss me with tongue? Yes. Weird face 12. Can you fly? No. Weird face 9. Can you stand on your head? Yes. Weird face 7. Do you hate raccoons? No. Confused. Do you feel blame? No. Weird face 11. Would you like a new monster? Yes. Surprised. Will you miss me? Yes. Sad. I was happy that I was getting a new monster, but that last question kind of bothered me. Will you miss me? Is Face referring to when I finished the game? Since the revelation of the game's truly otherworldly nature, I wasn't really sure what to think of Face. Or anything else in the game, for that matter. But something about that last statement gave me a genuine feeling of sadness from the Face. It's because he had the sad emoji. It's because he used the emoji. As I was thinking about this, the game had gone back to the board. Oh god, I have to fucking switch over to that. I had a new monster, but I had no idea who it was supposed to be. The sprite had a slight resemblance to Rodan. Rodin? Rodan. But the head was totally off. I moved this mysterious newcomer to a white temple icon, and I started the level. When I started the level, the screen appeared with the text, "Find the gem." Presumably instructions for beating the level. Find the computer room! As I got my first look at the new playable monster, a hairy dark blue creature with bat wings and a skull-like face. Its name was Solomon. Like from Hosamo. I also found that my path was blocked by a beam of light and a small pillar with a plate on it. I figured that the beam of light was blocking the exit, so I have to find the gem and drop it on the plate to deactivate the beam. How exactly I was going to do that, I don't know. There wasn't anything in the original game requiring you to find an item to beat the level, so I have to figure out when I attained the gem. I'd have to find out when I obtained the gem. The only direction I had to go was left, so on I proceeded. Solomon was interesting, to say the least. He was capable of both flight and a heat beam, both of which proved to be very useful. He could also kick and slash with his wings, but he couldn't crouch. The White Temple's music was a vocalizing choir, or video game approximation of such. It's hard to describe, but it had a very holy sound to it. It wasn't long before I started running into waves of new enemies. They didn't do much to stop me, and I ran past them all slashing, and I didn't take any damage. There was a pause between each wave of enemies. After you killed about 10, there wouldn't be any for like a minute, and then the next wave would appear. After about 5 minutes, I noticed some holes in the ceiling and floor. Guillotine mouth creatures were flying rapidly up and down these crevices, so I had to time my jumps really carefully. You know, like a platformer. Luckily, I managed to get through without a scratch. I'm just lucky, I guess. There you fuckers go. I told you, it's important to have luck. It's smarter to be lucky than it's lucky to be smart. After that, I found myself at the end of a hallway, facing some kind of mini-boss? It moved fast, and had some kind of projectile that it shot in 4 directions. But I killed it really easily using Solomon's heat beam. When the battle was over, I had my gem, which was inside the creature's head. Sorry, this series of screen caps. Alright, I'ma head out. I found that I could pick up and hold the gem by walking over to it and holding down B. I made the long trek back to the start, and deposited the gem on the plate, which deactivated the beam. I left the stage, and was shown what was probably the strangest quirk relating to the Solomon monster. Oh, here we go, boys. Here we go, boys. Are you ready? Still the best. 1973. Every time you complete a stage or defeat a boss with Solomon, this screen appears. I have no idea what still the best 1973 means. Neither the date nor the phrase have any meaning or significance to me that I can think of, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. You know, you can trust this guy. He's a fucking thinker. I don't want to be reminded of the time that I watched my best friend die. I'm gonna keep playing this game, though. Sorry, this image is such a fucking Chad image. It's so good. You know Solomon fucks. The next level I played was one that I called Bronze Pyramids. I used Godzilla, and I found he'd been leveled up to 12 since I last played him in Dementia. The Bronze Pyramids were fairly normal as far as these levels go, but the visuals were really interesting. Almost unusually colorful and lively. He really is just like a sweet man. I would give Solomon a kiss on the cheek. The music had a fittingly Egyptian style to it, and it was slow and mysterious sounding. Sorry, hang on. Rick just sent me a very good image. Hold on, I have to find this. Where did I save that? Did I save that to Telegram? No, I didn't. Okay. Can I save that to the desktop, please? No, I can't. Where the fuck did I save it? No! It is in downloads. What the heck? There it is. That's a good fucking image. Okay. Back to the fucking video game. I strolled through the level, fighting off the various enemies. None were too difficult, although the ants were kind of a pain if you ran into too many. My favorite enemy was this giant reptile that I encountered halfway through. At the end of the level, I came to a giant pyramid and I engaged in yet another mini-boss fight. Although this one was a bit different. I had to fight 2 monsters at the same time. Individually, I could have dealt with them easily, but fighting them both at once was kind of a challenge. I sped things up by tricking one of the twin beasts into barbecuing his brother by jumping when he uses his flame breath. After defeating the monsters, I noticed something strange after returning to the board. I was now able to move my monster piece anywhere on the board without limits. Normally Godzilla could only move 3 spaces per turn, and Mothra could move 5. I wanted to try Solomon out some more, so I moved his piece over to the brown pillar-looking icons with colored dots and started the level. When I got to this level, I realized what the level icon represented. Totem poles. Is that what they look like? It just looks like a bunch of tiki heads stacked on top of each other. I was greeted by 2 of them at the right at the beginning. The music had a Native American sound to it. It seemed to be using the same instruments as the Entropy Forest, but it was noticeably different, but just as foreboding. I walked around for 3 minutes with nothing else in sight besides the totem poles. I didn't realize it until then, but I wasn't expecting another level with nothing alive in it. After all the activity and entropy. Walking by all those multicolored faces, the unnerving level left me feeling like I was being watched. Only about 10 minutes after I started Exodus, I was already halfway through. After getting back from the totem pole level, I tried out one of the TV screens to see how strange they were this time. I don't care who you are, that's hot. Oh, that's Neptune. Shit. Where's the other music? Where's the music? Oh, shit. I fucked it up. Let's go back to Donkey Kong. Fuck it. I switched back to Godzilla to play another level, and this one was kind of a surprise. It was a normal city level. The colors were a bit gloomy. But even this was still quite a shock. This was the kind of level I would expect to see in a Godzilla game, and I was kind of mad that I didn't get to play it earlier. The music was the Earth theme. I found it strange that a level fitting a Godzilla game would show up this late. I mean, there's no point crying over spilled milk, I suppose. I moved Solomon over to a grayish-green icon, which turned out to be a giant high-tech laboratory of some sort. Lots of mechanical drones in this level, but Solomon cleared through them just like the White Temple enemies. The music was a gritty industrial beat. Oh, fuck yeah. There's also some strange flying cyborg enemy, which was annoying because it would fly away when you jumped to attack it. There were also these large stasis tanks holding some sort of monster inside. Sometimes the monsters awaken and shatter through the glass. I tried to get past the stasis tanks as fast as possible, because the monsters inside proved to be vicious little bastards upon release. At the end of the level was this elevator, which I used to go down to the bottom of where the end of the level was. Along the way, I was shot at by security drones. I couldn't leave the elevator, so my only defense was just to shoot the heat beam. The last level was this simple thing that I call the Heart Temple for obvious reasons. Obvious to me, not to you. I'm downloading these images way too slowly. Nothing but a big hallway filled with floating enemies shaped like human hearts. They're incapable of causing you damage, so what you do is run through the level, smashing as many as you can to get all the power-ups. One run through these levels would get the life meter back up to full, and I would greatly appreciate these levels later. The Heart Temple's music reminded me of a circus tune, had an overly cheerful sound to it, which gave the level a really weird feeling. Having seen all the level types, I chose to fight Gorosaurus using Salamon. Still the best. 1973. The music for this fight was Gozora's theme. It was during this fight I realized that Salamon is fucking overpowered. A single well-aimed slash can take down as many as 4 of the enemy's life bars. Due to this, the fight was over quickly. He had no projectile attacks or anything else that could match Solomon's deadly claws. But I kept the fight going just long enough to see if Gorosaurus would use his iconic kangaroo kick, and I was greatly pleased when he did. Even though I knew Salamon was my fighting ace, I used Godzilla to beat Kumonga because I'm a fucking idiot, I guess. I briefly considered using Mothra, but of course Godzilla won out. Of fucking course. Are you stupid? Godzilla kicks so much ass. Mothra's just a shitty moth. Just kidding, I love Mothra. She's my favorite. Kumonga was also a simple opponent, no heat beams or anything. He's just a fucking spider. He jumps on you, stabbing with his mandibles, and uses a signature webbing stream to paralyze you. Yo, he shits. Once you get webbed, he'll sometimes take the opportunity to attack, but it's mostly just a way to buy time, like how Gazora backs you in the corner until the time runs out. His music was Hedorah's theme. With Gorosaurus and Kumonga defeated, I was at the end of Exodus. Before I fought Not Ghidorah, there was something I had to do. After I used the bathroom, I came back. And for documentation's sake, I took a look at the other TV screen. This is what it was. I don't think there ever was much reason behind the TV screens. If I were to guess, it's some random uncontrolled manifestation of the cartridge's abilities. Or maybe all this makes perfect sense to the game, who knows. Anyway, Mr. Fawcett's theme was the Saturn music. It was time for the opponent I had been dreading. Not Ghidorah. Oh god, hang on. Although I had gained courage with Salamon's combat advantages, I was still kind of nervous. And when I started the fight, I was immediately confused. My opponent was not Ghidorah. I defeated the imposter with a few strikes, and then not Malgara appeared. Then it made sense. In order to get to not Ghidorah, I had to battle all the previous replacements first. And I did. There's screenshots of him fighting all of them. It's just Salamon with fighting the other ones. You don't need to see them. I tore my way through them until I finally made it to not Ghidorah, who was a Dorat. Whoops. A Dorat. My wife. Once I stopped laughing, I destroyed him with only 2 slashes. The music stopped. I thought I was going back to on board, but the battle wasn't over yet. The real fight began. If I can get these images downloaded. The real fight was against the Chimera, a monstrous hybrid of all the replacement beasts. This was by far the most difficult boss yet. Every attack of his would cut down whole life bars per use, while the attacks against him were greatly weakened. Solomon's Slash was lucky to take away 1/2 of a life bar. During this battle, I gained a great appreciation for 2 things. 1, the boss fight time limit, and 2, the Heart Temple. Had it not been for those things, I might have never beaten this boss. To take down this behemoth, I came up with a strategy. I would switch between Godzilla and Salamon. As one began to get dangerously low on health, I would take him through the Heart Temple while fighting Chimera with the other. I should count my blessings that Chimera couldn't regain lost health. Very interesting thing about him is that the colored sections on the body correspond to the different parts, to his different body parts. So each body part effectively had its own life meter. The head was invincible as long as the other parts were present, and would always be the last parts to be destroyed. In addition to being difficult, it was also one of the longest fights. I tried to remember how many times I got taken out of the fight by the timer, but I lost count around 15. Eventually, I destroyed all the components but the head, which now flew around on its own at incredible speed. It fought well, but I was determined, and once he was reduced to a head, he no longer had the power to defeat Salamon, and I heat beamed him into oblivion. And then, the Chimera was no more. I was exhausted in real life after that drawn-out fight, and worried that might affect my performance in the end-world chase level. You know, he's gonna lose frames. He's gonna lose time. The headquarters icon was replaced, but not by the Hellbeast face. Instead, a crucifix. I was completely stunned. I wasn't excited about seeing the Hellbeast icon again, but if there was only one good thing about those levels is that they were predictable. I had a basic idea of what to expect, but now here I was at the end, and an icon was completely different. What did it mean? And why a crucifix? It made me uneasy. I attempted to start the level with Salamon, but I couldn't. I got this notice that simply stated, "Salamon can't enter here." It didn't say why, but I think maybe it has to do with Salamon's demonic appearance? No, it's because he's still the best, 1973. Since Salamon was out of the question, I went with Godzilla instead. Cause fuck Mothra, I guess. Once I saw the level, the crucifix made sense. It was a graveyard. Solomon isn't Catholic? Really? Oh no. I was still on edge, thinking this was some kind of trick. The last level had always involved running from some demonic beast. And I wasn't about to be fooled into thinking that this was any different. So I started running. Running with my stubby little dino legs. But after a minute without interruption, I slowed down. It was during this time that the music caught my attention. I knew it sounded familiar when I first heard it, but it took a while before I realized what it was. An 8-bit rendition of Prayer for Peace from the first Godzilla film. A very sad, powerful song, even in this form. After about 2 minutes into the level, I encountered something that I wasn't sure how to react to. My first instinct was to run, but this statue being simply floated in place. I felt compelled to stare at it for some time. Since this was a grave and it was floating over a chapel, I guess that this was some kind of angel watching over the deceased? It gave me this strange but warm feeling. I wouldn't say happy, but I felt that I was at peace somehow. I'd never seen this being before, but it seemed very familiar to me. Just as I was about to leave, the Hellbeast disappeared, and its presence warped the music into a terrifying, discordant screeching and transformed the level, desecrating the tombstones as a new ground appeared, comprised of blood-soaked bodies. I could feel my heart beating out of control. I had no chance of escape with the monster that close. It lunged for the kill, but the angel got in the way. The demon roared and started clawing through the angel's leg, and tears of blood streamed from its eyes. I wanted to save the angel, but there was nothing I could do. I had to honor its sacrifice and run. You fucking coward. And so I ran through the hellish landscape as fast as my dinky little legs could take me. Could you imagine seeing Godzilla run? That'd be so cute. The beast soon caught up with me, still swallowing the body of the angel whose legs had been torn off. Me when I see my man. And this sight made my terror change into anger. I found myself hating this horrible monster. There was no doubt in my mind that it was pure evil, and I wanted it to die. When I got to the end, I remembered how it responded to my insult and trance. So I spoke to it, and I said, "You're going to pay." This was its response. That's a fucking PogChamp right there. I had no idea how I would follow up on that threat. And nothing could have prepared me for the horrors of the final world. Zenith. Creature that stares at gay people. Alright, I'm really sorry. Give me like 1 minute. I have to pee so bad. It's been 2.5 hours of reading this thing. Or 1.5 hours. No, it's been 2 hours. Shit. Give me a few minutes. This story is so scary, it's making me have to piss myself. And I almost just did. Remember to hydrate, kids. Especially when you read for 2.5 hours straight. And here we are. At the final world. I don't like to discuss this part, and it still bothers me very much. But I'm going to anyways, I fucking guess. At this point, I was well aware of the game's unnatural nature, but Zenith was different than the other worlds. While the other stages were certainly strange, and sometimes frightening, the world of Zenith was like a nightmare. I didn't have to go any further than the board screen for an indication that something was wrong with Zenith. The first thing I noticed was a blood-red texture of the board and the music, which was an eerie whistling tune. I noticed that I had Salamon and Angerus back, and I felt better for a second. And then I scrolled to the right to see who my enemies would be this time. It was Destoroyah, Despacito, and Ghidorah. But judging from the icon, it was a different Ghidorah than the original, standing on the ground instead of flying. The grotesquely detailed pinkish red icon also caught my eye. I couldn't tell what it was supposed to be, and I was afraid to find out. Going back to my side of the board, I decided that there wasn't much choice but to do my usual routine in going to the quiz level before doing anything else. I wasn't ready for what happened next. I jumped back when this appeared, accompanied by a terribly distorted version of the password theme. It looked like it was fallen victim to some terrible glitch. Is this what he meant by, "Will you miss me?" Did he know this would happen? My thoughts were stopped short as I saw that the screen was glitching and falling apart while I was inactive, so I quickly rushed out. And when I got back to the board, I somehow gained a new monster. I hadn't even been asked if I wanted one. I tried to select it, and this is what happened. God, these visual effects are fucking something else. I tried to select it, and this is what happened. No. No, you don't get to play with this one. This one has quotations around it. He says, "What the hell is going on?" I fucking love these losers that talk to the computer screens. I say as I talk to a computer screen. Well, no, I'm talking to a microphone. The game's behavior was scaring me. Oh, and I hadn't even started the levels yet. Bro, just turn it off, bro. I couldn't understand why I was randomly given a new character and then denied the use of it. But for the time being, there was little that could be done. And I viewed the last TV screen. No animation. No music. Dead. Every instinct I had was telling me to stop playing, just to turn the game off. And something in the game itself might have been trying to warn me as to how terrible this last world was. But every stretch of the way I felt compelled to give up. Just like, rip to you, but I'm different. Rip to you, but I'm still the best. 1973. I couldn't give up now on the last world. Besides, after taunting me with memories of Melissa, I felt the game owed me some answers. I noticed that the first temple was a red temple, so I would at least be familiar with the level graphics, if nothing else. And I went in with Godzilla, the monster I was most familiar with. Yeah, I'm familiar with Godzilla, if you catch my drift. Godzilla had been shrunk. Oh, look at the little baby! And the level and score meters had vanished, and the blue temple statue faces were back. The music was similar to the blue temple, also. Strange, haunting... I'm like searching through my music. Strange, fuck. I closed the tab. There we go. Okay, I found it. Strange, haunting vocalizations. I tried to get my spirits up by thinking, well, if this level's like the blue temple, then that means there's no enemies to deal with. What an idiot I was. After a short walk, all the statue's eyes began to glow. And a pack of the boys from the Shadow... a pack of the beasts, excuse me, from the Shadow Labyrinth came charging into me. Since they were from the right of the screen, I had to fight my way through. The boys... This battle greatly tested my reflexes, but thanks to my speed, I plowed through the beasts. They gave off health power-ups after dying, which helped recover the damage they had given me. However, as I continued through the hallway, the statue's eyes glowed again, summoning another wave. It seemed to be the same number of them, but I was less prepared this time, and I took more damage. How are you less prepared? I'd gone through 4 of these waves until I reached the end of the hall, where I heat-beamed one of the monsters over the edge into an abyss. At first it seemed like a dead end, but the statue's eyes stopped glowing, and a brick path slowly appeared before me. I followed up the path, which kept moving me toward the right, until it stopped at a wall where I was to go vertically by jumping up the ledges. Along the way, I encountered another new creature, and some strange shrine which had a statue of the Hell Beast, and some other creatures that I just don't recognize. Or maybe we don't recognize them yet. Ho 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 ho! Ho ho ho! I use this as a way to stall for me to get the new picture up. As I went through, the path took a downward direction. I had to carefully aim my jumps to avoid the enemies, which were plentiful in this part of the stage. They didn't have many attacks, but they could easily shove you off over the edge off of a platform. Sorry, this looks like fucking Red Edgar Allan Poe. Redgar Allan Poe, if you will. At the end of this tunnel, there were a few small platforms floating above nothingness. I landed on one towards the left of the screen, and then something came down from above. It looked like the Blue Angel from their graveyard, but it couldn't be, because this dude was red instead. I call it the Red Angel. Oh, except now it was red and it had a skull face. I should just read. Any of the pleasant feelings I had from the Blue Angel were not present with this one, and it hovered around its eye sockets started to glow just like the statue, summoning monsters to attack me. Surely this was not the same benevolent being I had encountered before. This must be some kind of imposter. The battle was nerve-wracking, as I started off with nearly half my health and had to deal with multiple opponents, as well as the threat of gravity. To make things worse, as the Red Angel took damage, some of the panels fell until only 3 remained. My luck had not run out yet. Just when I thought it was over, I got 200 coins from a slot machine. Just as it was over, I struck the Red Angel one more time, and it turned out one last hit was all it could take. Just as the Red Angel completely disintegrated, the game went back to the Zenith board. I moved Mothra over to the nearest Red Temple stage, which seemed to be a garbled mess of letters, spelling out kill. As I suspected, all the levels' graphics were made of jumbled letters. And just like Mothra. And Mothra, just like Godzilla, was shrunk to half size. It's cool that the NES has Mode 7. The background music was terrible. Like if somebody put all the sounds an NES was capable of making into a blender and then piecing them back together into a song. I had to turn the volume down because of it, because I'm a baby with baby ears. Can't handle scary music. Oh. Playing as Mothra made avoiding the enemies easier, but they were nonetheless determined to get me. The first enemies I saw were headless Gigans, and later on there were hybrid monsters pieced together from previous bosses. Like the Biolante-headed thing seen, 5 minutes had gone by, and I didn't see anything new. And the level shifted into another segment. The music changed from the loud and annoying beeps into something far more ambient and menacing. You're just gonna have to imagine that I just now changed the music. The level graphics also changed. Now I'm looking more like a blood-drenched graveyard. The way everything in this level was red made it sickening to look at. Fucking God. Everyone who plays NES games is a fucking pussy. The enemies multiplied in number, never ceasing to follow after me, and became harder and harder to avoid. At the end of the level, the situation reached a climax as the swarms of monsters fused together in one enormous, terrifying hybrid. It's cute. It's like a little puppy. Once I'd gotten through the initial shock, I discovered the way to destroy this thing, constantly shooting I-beams at the Hedorah cluster that formed its heads. If you attacked anywhere else, it would regenerate the damage. Even without that knowledge, this was an extremely difficult fight. I'd say it was as hard as fighting the Moon Beast was, if not harder. God, the Moon Beast. Y'all remember 2 hours ago? Its most common attack was lunging forward with its arms, covered with Gigan saws and blades. They instantly touched, it would drain health. It was over. When it was over, the remaining monsters collapsed into a heap. Then they, and the ground below them, started to disintegrate and sink towards the bottom of the screen. Y'all seen Undertale, right? It's like that, when you kill a monster. When I came back to the board, I thought to myself, so far the game has been putting the easiest levels first. If that's the case, how bad will Zenith be? With 2 levels down and 3 to go, my monsters and I had taken our foothold in the world of nightmares that was Zenith. Deciding what action to take next was more tense and more difficult than before. But ultimately, I had no way of knowing what the next levels would be like, or how well my monsters would be prepared for them. So my only option was just to guess. I tried to interact with the icons of the next levels ahead of me. The last level before the boss battle was obviously representing some type of volcanic area with lava and open flames. The middle icon I still didn't really get. Oops, this one. The middle icon I still didn't really get. Except that it looked fleshy and like an organ of some kind. Oddly oversized as well. The one I was nearest to and about to enter next looked like a thorny vines covering a puddle of blood. It looks like a frog. I guess this would be a level with blood rivers, like the chase level of Dementia. As such, I went with Anguirus because due to his rolling move, he would have the fastest speed while being submerged. The level I call Blood Lake looked much like I expected. Rivers of blood. Ooh, excuse me. Rivers of blood accompanied by thorn-covered vines, which were scattered along the sides of the ground. The music was rather faint, but I could hear a distinct drum beat and a few other instruments. A lot of echoes, like somebody was hitting a drum underwater. I was disappointed to see that Anguirus was shrunk just as Godzilla and Mothra had been. Apparently, the Zenith levels would all be like this. I walked along without interruption for only a minute until my path reached a dead end. There was a massive gap between the ground I was walking on and the ground to the right of the screen. I would have swam across and continued walking to the right, but due to the huge mass of brambles in the way, there was nowhere to go. 2 creatures with gliding membranes on their arm and lamprey-like mouths were perched on the outstretched vines and screeching at me like a crow does to an invader of its territory. Another unnerving display of possible sentience by the creatures of this game. Do you know how video games work? I descended into the blood, slowly sinking to the floor. Aquatic enemies were everywhere and they were hard to avoid. The black shark in particular was aggressive and hard to deal with, but thankfully I only encountered one. But it was big, it was huge. It's him. It's the Blood Lake icon. Yeah, this pixel art is fucking, like, okay, I'll talk about my feelings about this afterwards, but this is fucking beautiful. As the scene became more and more crowded, I swam up to the surface to find that it was littered with corpses. Creepy, but, you know. At least they're not a threat, right? Or so I thought. Dun dun dun! Until they all sprang to life and leaped on me. They were trying to give me a hug and they were draining my health as they did. They all attacked as a group, and when I got one off me, another would jump on me from behind. This is just like being at an anime con. I had to curl up into a ball and loosen for them, and roll for them to loosen their grip. And when I did, they quickly retreated. It wasn't long before I reached another land path. A note regarding the brambles: you can stand on them, but it causes pain. In real life, it hurt me. It causes pain, and you can destroy some of the vines, but only the thinner ones. I had to destroy multiple vines as I was dealing with more enemies. But I was interrupted by a screen. The screen was only up for about 30 seconds, and it went right back to the level. I was facing another dead end, and a pregnant humanoid creature being hanged from the top right of the screen showed up, hung by a spine or umbilical cord. Instantly, the creature's belly was split open from the inside. God, it looks like Meat Clown. Wait a minute, he looks like he's surprised. Like he's like, oh! Motherfucker! That was Godzilla's way of telling us his favorite video game franchise, that he really wants them to localize to the West. Sorry, can I... Can I say that this series of images is called Bobo Fight? Y'all, get ready, it's fucking Bobo. Bobo the fucking baby. The lower part of its body was ripped apart and fell into the river below. The Blood Lake's boss was revealed. Bobo. It came flying towards me, making a shrill, hacking scream. I was forced to move back. The bat was a highly mobile boss, fast and difficult to hit. As I moved back along the ground, the monster opened its mouth and shot out a barrage of needles. I jumped over them and managed to give it a blow to the head, and it chopped to the strike. It started flying out of my reach. The bat was flying, and it shot a stream of fire from its eye sockets, and it started trying to hit me with the flames. I rolled along the ground, which drained my power, but put us at equal speed. The cycle repeated about 3 times, until the monster was defeated. With most of my health drained, I went back to the edge of the level, and the large bramble vine blocking the exit was gone. Now, only 2 levels left to go. Who's it gonna send this time? Godzilla, Mothra, and Anguirus had all completed 1 level, leaving Salamon, and also the 5th mysterious monster. I tried to access it, but with no luck. I chose to use Godzilla again for the next level, and then Salamon for the final one. The second to last level is what I refer to as the organic level, like a Trader Joe's. Right from the start, I could see that the graphics were freakishly different. The atmosphere was gruesome and foreboding. With the addition of the loud, droning music, I was dreading what I would see in these levels. It was only a few seconds before something appeared. I can't believe he fucking killed Bobo. Now who am I gonna see at the circus? 2 hideous things. It's hard to describe most of this level. Everything had this disturbed, semi-real look to it. Hyper-realistic, if you will. Most of the enemies look halfway between real animals and misshapen lumps of gore with teeth. It's also worth noting that all of them were considerably larger than Godzilla, and although the majority were not very intelligent, each of them took about 30 hits to kill. Due to this, it was a better idea to just run away from them than fight, but it was never clear what direction to run to. That wall looks like a hilarious crab stack. Oh, wow, it is. While most levels involved going to the right to get to the exit, the path of this level was going down by walking to the edge of one platform and jumping down to a lower one. There was no way to make sure that you were going the right way, nor any apparent means of getting back up to higher platforms if necessary. Also, certain enemies acted as if they were aware you had to jump down. It would stand at the edge of a lower platform, waiting for you. When this happened, I would have to walk back and wait until the monster would leave. As I went on, I came across platforms that stacked above each other with little space in between, looking like some sort of maze. This meant that I couldn't jump, and it made escape from enemies difficult. Luckily, the only enemies able to fit through these mazes were the four-legged beasts seen at the beginning of the level. Adding to the difficulty were long, tapeworm-esque monsters that would rise themselves up between the platforms and trap you. The only attack they responded to was the heat beam, which would cause them to shrink back down. But this would cost even more power, and I couldn't afford to do without the heat beam for long. They looked like Gooper Blooper's tentacles. While trying to avoid the abominations that dwell in this level, I found out that if you stand idle in one place for too long, the ground tries to absorb your monster. I think it was about 4 minutes before the end of the level that this level began making me physically sick. Oh, come on, dude. The tension was getting to me, and having to take in all these disgusting sights made me want to puke. I nearly did pause the game and look for a bag, but I was holding it together. Just throw up on your screen, dog. It'll be fine. You gotta save Melissa. I've lost the plot of this. I also found a trick at the end of the level, though it was too late to do me any good. If two different species of monster run into each other face to face, they would just fight each other and leave me alone. I didn't intentionally cause this, it just sort of happened. Finally, at the end was another boss fight. It was certainly ugly, but not quite as horrific as I had feared it would be. But more important than dealing with its appearance was defeating it. Since I had less than half my health bar to start with, there was no room for errors. This dude pops out of the ground and he goes, "Dinosaur office! Roar!" It was attached to the floor when I first saw it, but after 10 hits it detached from the floor and began floating. It moved fast, and unlike the Blood Lake's boss, he wasn't impeded by any sort of gravity. It was even able to fly through the ground without any collision effect. He was able to float through the air with relative ease. No, wait, float through the air and climb up trees. There it is. It used this to its advantage, and would float beneath the ground and spring up randomly to bite at you. But it stopped doing this after a few well-aimed kicks to the face. Yeah, I would do the same. The pink area on its upper jaw has a weak point. Too many hits there would cause it to spasm uncontrollably. The plot holds itself together until the last fourth, and then it's like, I don't know how to end it, but you gotta trust me, this stuff's gross. Yeah, I mean, looking at this, I feel physically ill. It looks like the bull terrier from the meme! Holy shit! Oh my god. The graphics are good, yeah. The new strategy was to rapidly float up and down while moving across the stage, trying to constantly keep its jaws aimed towards me. Health was getting critical at this point, and I spammed the heat beam, from which it had no defense. In the last stretch of the battle, the monster lost its mind, rapidly rushing back and forth, gnashing its jaws. I had to duck under it and strike when its back was turned. 20 more hits, and it was destroyed. I counted. He goes into so many specifics. Maybe I've just got ADHD, but if I played through a traumatic experience like this, I'd be like, oh yeah, one time I played a fucked up copy of Godzilla. There was like a blood world? It was weird. The moon had a baby. One last level to go. Holy shit. Sorry. I read ahead. This looks really fucking fucking stupid. This is really stupid. The last level was definitely the peak of disconnect between what the NES was graphically capable of and what this game could create. The music also caught my attention. There was a clown bat named Bobo, and I miss him dearly. The horrible screeching from when the Hellbeast appeared in the graveyard. As soon as I started, there was an enemy prepared to attack. A centaur wielding a whip, and it wasn't alone. Bobo has shown me more love than my father. Bobo is just the clown version of Face. When I started fighting, several more centaurs appeared, coming from both sides of the screen at the same time. It was too much to handle. Solomon's flight saved me from taking too much damage at the start of the level. The centaurs followed after, but they seemed unable to jump. Half of this fucking creepypasta, I would say like 80% of this creepypasta could be cut out if he didn't describe what the enemies did. If he didn't describe how he beat the enemies. But that's something that happens in every fucking creepypasta is like, it's like when you're fighting a Sonic boss, but you're describing it like a producer is describing it to someone to like a stakeholder. Like, you run across the screen and you get behind him and you punch him in the head, when in reality you just like jump over him and onto him from behind. Like, they try to make it as cool and badass as possible, but in reality he probably just like mashed the fucking A button until something happened. As new enemies appeared, the level soon became very difficult. A lot of the trouble came from the stocky red demons. Hello, it's horny o'clock. Stocky red demons that stood on top of tall, narrow mountains and spewed fire. This is my ideal man. I noticed I wasn't gaining any health from killing enemies. Not all the ground was stable. At one point, oh, look at this little eel dude on the ground. I just noticed. Look at him. He's just like, he doesn't want to fuck with anybody. He just wants to slither. Being close to the lava added the threat of some lava creatures, and this was very frustrating. I was also feeling very hot and bothered by these, frankly, sultry red demons. If you've ever had a heat rash, it felt similar to that. I had periodically stopped for water because of it. This is almost certainly due to the game, and not my imagination. And not because I've been sitting in a chair for 3.5 hours reading fucking Godzilla NES.com. At the end of the stage, I encountered the boss rising from lava. Its arrival noted with an ungodly howling roar. Wah, wah. I'm not gonna do a roar because I've been reading for 3 hours and my throat really fucking hurts and I still have a chapter and a half to get through. Look at this boy. When I walked onto the land, I saw how gigantic it was, several times the size of Solomon. I was about to fly up and attack it when it opened its mouth and let out a huge blast of fire. Wow. The Doom Eternal DLC took a bold change. Holy shit. I had to fly to dodge the flames, and then get close enough to have the boss to fire a heat beam at its face. Isn't heat beam like it's a laser beam? Just shoot it. Causing it to stumble backwards. If it didn't stumble backward, it would have kept moving left until it forced Salomon into the lava, as there was no more ground within reach. The beast had to wait between the uses of its fire breath, and it seemed to cost a great deal of energy. I used this time to attack it, but fire wasn't its only weapon, and I had to be wary of the monster swatting at me with its clawed hands. As its health decreased, it moved faster, and the battle felt like a tug of war between two monsters over this bridge of land. It didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like that. You just jumped around and didn't get hit. After about 40 hits, I counted, it was defeated, tumbling backwards into the lava from whence it came. And then, the final stage had been completed. At last, it was down to 2 bosses, a final encounter with the Hellbeast. How do we know this is the last world? How do we know? Did it say that this was the last world anywhere? How does he know? For some reason, I thought Ghidorah would be easy to beat, so I confronted him first. Wait, hang on. Hang on, this is gonna be funny. Oh, wait, hang on. Just like a fucking second. This is gonna be really funny, I promise. I promise it's gonna be really funny. It's worth the wait. There it is. The classic Ghidorah battle music from the original started up as I was faced against the new King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah was powerful and unrelenting as ever. He instantly lashed out with gravity beams, which were more damaging than Godzilla's heat beam. It became a struggle of constantly beating Ghidorah at every opportunity to keep him from using the attack. But Ghidorah soon saw through my tactic, and he started using physical attacks as well. He would strike with each of his necks, knocking me backwards and making it impossible to get close enough to punch him. But I had an idea, to wait for him to lunge with one of his heads, and then immediately blast him with one of the heat beams. It worked, and to my surprise, the heat beam actually obliterated Ghidorah's middle head. It was only a few seconds before I realized what this would lead to. And sure enough, oh my god. Hang on, there's pictures. Wow, there he is, Mecha King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah was using the power of the glitch to transform into Mecha King Ghidorah? Is that how it works? But what really shocked me was the sudden change in music. I had heard it before, but it wasn't from the original NES game. It was from the game Super Godzilla during the Mecha King Ghidorah fight. Mecha King Ghidorah's first attack was its most deadly, the machine hand. Oh boy, more describing how it goes. I need to defeat him. Yep, the two monsters were... Oh, he sent in Salamon to fight him. Can you... I've never played the original Godzilla games. Can you, like, swap characters like in Shrek 2? The two monsters were evenly matched in strength, but Solomon was faster, and by slashing and heat beaming without pause, the cyborg monster soon met its end. With Ghidorah defeated, I returned to the board, now outnumbered by the four monsters to one, and victory seemed to be soon at hand. The base icon had changed to a blood red color. I could feel hatred emanating from it. Bro, it's pixels on a screen. I started the fight against Despacito with Anguirus, and the music was the same as Ghidorah's. When the fight began... oh no, what happened? When the fight began, it was in microscopic form. After one hit, it changed into the Juvenile, which had a few attacks and was also dealt with easily. The fight became serious once Despacito entered aggregate form, gaining the use of large arms and micro-oxygen beam. Okay. The game incarnation of this is going to be 1,000 times better by virtue of having no narration. Yeah, it lags because he's telling you everything he did to beat it. Like, I need the details, but I don't need all the details. Just say, like, it was tough, but I beat it, let's move on. Just before time ran out, Despacito changed into its flying form. He switched to fly formation with tails, and Anguirus was ill-suited to fight against. Going back in, I fought against the flying form with Batra, which seemed fitting. Oh my god, Mothra was weaker than him. Who would have fucking guessed it? So far, the fight was in my favor, but then the Mecha Ghidorah fight music started playing. As Despacito changed into his final form sooner than I had expected. I wasn't prepared for this. And he's a dragon now. He's a dinosaur. During the last part of the fight, I wasn't using much strategy, just attacking as brutally and as fast as I could. Wow, he's swapping between all the characters to destroy Destoroyah. A beam of energy, he tried one last counterattack, a beam of energy from his chest. I didn't know how powerful it would have been. Just before I could fire, I punched Destoroyah in his chest cavity and destroyed him. And that was that. The last kaiju boss was gone, as far as I know. In the midst of all this excitement, I had briefly forgotten that there was still one last thing to do before the game would be over. That's right. I got another scary boy. Seeing the icon again hit me like a ton of bricks, and I froze for a few minutes. I'd come so far to get to this point, but I was terrified. I really did not want to know what this last encounter was going to be like. Before I could let myself think about it any longer, I moved Godzilla over and began the stage. You're here now. This is the end. Just one last thing and then it's all over. And when the screen changed, there was nothing. Just a black screen and Godzilla. I walked back and forth, fired a heat beam. Nothing happened until I heard something. The faint, familiar sound of a drum beat. Oh god, one more chapter. Oh, and it's shorter than it's a part 1? Fuck me, I'm gonna die. Let me get more water. I'll be right back. Holy shit, this is a long one. Ah, my headphones. Oh my god. Hydrate, thank you. Thank you, Kaijumafu. Do you like Godzilla, Kaijumafu? I can't tell by your name. Oh dear god. This was my first thought on realizing I would have to fight Red. Oh, he named it. That's sweet. How would I be able to fight something that can kill with one touch? It seemed totally impossible. Thankfully, Red was no longer able to deliver one-hit kills, but despite that, this was the most difficult battle I've ever faced. Not even including the emotional toll that I had, the emotional battle I had when I watched my fucking friend die. I very soon learned what a horrible mistake I had made. Red reached out and clawed at Godzilla. And when those claws cut through him, I felt it. I know that it's common for people to cringe up when their video game... I know that it's cringe when their video game character gets hit or loses a life. But this was not that. This was genuine physical pain. When the pain struck me, I paused the game. I hadn't suffered any actual injuries, but it just felt like my shoulder had been clawed through. I'd seen and experienced many unpleasant things at this point, but the game causing me real pain is where I drew the line. Yeah, I'd be disappointed that I wouldn't get to see the ending, but the risk was no longer worth it. I was about to get up and take one last screenshot and turn off the NES, but when I realized something else. I couldn't get up. I was paralyzed to my seat. The only muscles I could move were my fingers and thumbs. Just like a true gamer. As the terror set in, a new message appeared on screen. And a fancy little gradient, too. I started to scream, but only a weak, choking sound came out. I desperately tried to get my body to move, but it did nothing. I was looking at every direction, and then I looked over at the computer. Somehow, the computer was taking... Sorry, I read ahead again. Fuck me! God damn it, I can't keep reading ahead. This shit's too funny. The computer began taking screenshots of the game on its own when I began the fight. I still don't know how or why. Something in the game must have been causing it. Since Red could hear what I was saying, I tried begging for him to let me go. From here, things start to get hazy, as I was under extreme stress at the time. But I can remember I said, I'm sorry I insulted you. I didn't mean it. I didn't know things would get this serious. Please just let me go. If you let me go, I promise I'll never tell anyone or turn the game on ever again. Please! And Red responded with... You pathetic worm, it's too late. Go away, worm. Red's just fucking cyberbully. You pathetic worm, you absolute cretin. you fucking twat. Only one will survive. Oh, I'm ruining this for myself. The statement could not be made any more clear. If I couldn't beat Red, then he would kill me. Like an idiot, I'd played around with something I didn't understand, and now it might cost me my life. I stopped struggling and moved to accept the reality of the situation, and there was only one way to get out of this alive. I had to kill Red. Look at this fucking face. Holy shit. He looks like, oh fuck. It all went by so fast. If it weren't for these screenshots, I may not have remembered any of this. Just like in the chase levels, Red moved at a horrifyingly fast speed. Just wait a minute. Hold on. This is so fucking stupid. Oh my god. Red moved at a horrifyingly fast speed. There's barely enough time to process the thought. You know, it's really nice that Red let him, like, keep these screenshots after he assumedly won. There was no time to form a strategy. I had to rely solely on my wits and reflexes. To make things worse, there was no way to predict what kind of attacks Red might use, so I had to be on the offensive and defensive. I don't need the fucking play-by-play. I felt every hit that Godzilla took. They all hurt. I tried so hard to avoid the damage, but every attack that I dodged left me vulnerable to another. And the pain only got worse. Got your nose. Oh, as he jumped over me, Red's eyes started to glow. I moved far back as I could and I ducked, but there was no dodging this one. Me when I eat a spicy pepper. Whoa, mamma mia, that's the one. Wow. When this hit me, I really did scream. I screamed so loud that someone else in the apartment should have heard me, but they didn't. I paused the game because it hurt so bad. But Red unpaused the game to attack me again, which made me furious. It pissed me the heck off. I immediately counterattacked with the heat beam again and again until the power meter was totally diminished. I wanted to hurt Red like he hurt me. Oh, what a face. Just before the timer ran out, Red transitioned into his swimming form. I didn't think the timer would still be affecting a battle like this. I'm thankful for it because it gave me a few minutes to collect my thoughts and decide what to do next. Buddy, what happened to Melissa? What happened to Mother? What was with the dude chopping off a head in that one gif? I chose to fight Red's next two forms with the monsters I had encountered with them. Why? Why are you making these kinds of like, ooh, let's do like a fun Nuzlocke challenge? Like, use Solomon, you fucking idiot. It probably wasn't all that smart of an idea. You think? Alright, more play-by-plays. Wow. Fantastic. I jumped up and I heat-beamed Red in the face with the Angimon. This show went downhill when they killed off Bobo! They fucking killed my favorite character. They wouldn't even let me pick that one guy. I jumped up and heat-beamed Red in the face, and he moved off screen where I couldn't reach him. Then a wave of large mines started to fall from above. I felt this was so unfair, and I shouted, "If you're gonna cheat, then why do you even let me use the controller?" And then he came at me, rushing from the top left of the screen downwards. Damn it, I said out loud in real life. Now I wouldn't be able to see where his next attack was coming from. Red continued to strike from random angles, and I constantly moved to swerve him. Oh, someone
Hey, have you seen any hermit crabs in this area?
Holy shit! You're hosting me. Thank you so much, Orbit Pause. I need to set my stream alert is not sitting on top of the screen, so thank you so much for the host, Orbit Pause. Red continued to strike from random angles. I constantly moved to swerve to avoid him. Hold on. I need to get rid of the Muxy alerts completely. Goodbye. Okay. Back to basics. I constantly moved around to swerve around him. After 40 seconds went by, and Anguirus was nearly gone, but together we forced Red into his flying form. So now it was Mothra's turn next. Why? Why? Just stay as Anguirus. Just stay as this Angie boy. Just play as Salamon. Why are you playing as Mothra? You hate Mothra. Fuck Melissa. Deciding to fight Red with Mothra was a terrible idea. But because you're fucking stupid. This guy's dumb as shit. Oh, excuse me, I've got hiccups. They actually made figures based on Godzilla's sprite in this game. Oh, that sounds fun. Mothra was instantly overwhelmed by Red, and the life meter was devastated in a mere 15 seconds. That's a lot of time. And Mothra's life was down to 2 bars. Red did something that I didn't see coming. Doodle-doo, doodle-doo, doo-doo, doodle-doo, doodle-doo, doo, like Persona 5. He reached out and grabbed Mothra, and I accidentally went back 1 page, so give me a second while the page reloads. Thank you, Rick, for the music. Oh, that's kind of loud. There we go. Sorry about that. He reached out and grabbed Mothra and ate her. 4. As Mothra was devoured, I felt agonizing pain like I was being crushed to death. Mothra had been killed for my stupidity, and I would share that pain. It was a short transition from the battle to the board, but it felt like an hour. The pain combined with being unable to move was driving me insane. I wanted so badly for this to end. I never wanted anything so much. But I still had hope. There was only one monster left that could be brought to full health by engaging Red in battle. Solomon. If any of them had a chance to save my life, it would be him now. Sorry, this image is fucking stupid. Hold on. This image is really fucking stupid. Me eating a hamburger. Yeah. Solomon apparently had some history with Red, because when the fight started, this dialogue happened. Still the best, 1973, let's fucking go. I'd rather die than serve you. Red took me by surprise again, immediately burning me with his demonic fire for a second time. As much as it hurt, it actually worked to my advantage. Since Salamon started at full life, he had some to spare. But now Red had used up all his energy and could not use his ultimate weapon any longer. Now he would die. As he drew close to the end of his life bar, Red turned his whole body to face the screen and he flew upwards like a majestic bird. And then slammed back down in an attempt to crush Salamon. When that failed to work, he tried to devour Salamon like he had with Mothra. But he wouldn't be eating my monster this time. Holy shit, this guy makes the best fucking faces. Die, monster. You don't belong in this world. He wouldn't be eating my monster this time. I pissed in his mouth. I spat some Mountain Dew Code Red. This is... me when I'm washing the dishes and I touch some food. I thought I had won. But something was wrong. Red wasn't sinking to the bottom, and I still couldn't move. Red was alive. Oh my god, are you fucking kidding me? This is still only part 1. Okay, wait, no, part 1 is over. Okay. Bro, what the fuck? I'm not done with you, he says. It's the last part, I'm assuming. Oh, thank God, there's no part 3. This is part 8, part 2. Sorry, I need to hydrate. I've been reading for literally 3.5 hours. After his seeming defeat by Salamon, Red had reconstructed his body into this gigantic final form, transporting us to a blazing inferno in the process. He's so wrinkly. Why does he look like this? Faced against Red's insane amount of health, my own demise was imminent. Salamon was my strongest monster, but not even he stood a chance. It was like trying to fight a mountain. Within seconds, Salamon was overpowered and dropped to the floor. When Red crushed him to death underneath his foot. It's kind of sexy. The sadistic demon took his time as he snapped Solomon's vertebrae and ribs dry, like dry brittle twigs. I could tell he was enjoying our pain. This guy's got a fetish. Oh, this dialogue. Oh my God. You are weak. Your monsters are weak. You will all die. This is hopeless. I'm a dead man. I had no choice but to send another monster to his death. We were all going to die. I only hoped that they would forgive me. After decreasing Red's health by a minuscule amount, Anguirus was also obliterated. Red unleashed a hail of blazing hot needles into his face until he collapsed. Oh. I hate taking the time to put these images in, but this fucking pixel art is so funny. Oh. Oh. Wait a minute. Hold on, where is it? Hold on. I breathe knives. After a moment of unspeakable agony, my nothingness as my ally faded away. The screen said, "You can't go gadget knife rip." The screen said, "You can't win, Zachary." I asked Red how he knew my name, and he said, "I've known you for a long time. I'll tell you a secret." You guys are not gonna fucking believe this one. I killed Melissa. For years, she was being tortured by something nobody understood. Now I knew what it was. Now I understand why I was mocked about Melissa's death. And how the game knew about it. Because he knew about it. Because he was the one responsible. And this time, he's going to kill me. Send your last monster, he says. I will end this futile struggle. I was taken back to the board to send Godzilla to his final stand. Barely anything was left of the board. Just Godzilla and Red's icon. And Wait, that's not the song I wanted. Whatever, I'll fucking roll with it. This is the song I wanted. Wait, where is it? Where is it? No, 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 no. There we go. The fifth monster. In the midst of everything that was happening, I completely had forgotten about him. I tried yet again to select it. I cursed, I begged, I screamed at it to do something, anything to help me. To no avail. There was only one thing left to do. It's just a series of pictures. Like, there's just a whole lot of pictures. That didn't really last very long. I knew Godzilla didn't stand any more of a chance than the rest did. But maybe now that all the other monsters were gone, the fifth monster might finally awaken. I managed to get the creature's icon selected, and I pressed the A button as fast as I could. Sorry, images. The icon started to shake, as if it were trying desperately to move. It was then that Red decided he was done playing fair. Now was the time. And before I could activate the monster, he went for the killing blow, paralyzing my heart. My hands started to become numb and unfeeling, but even as my vision was fading away, I still tried to press the A button. Red surely was breaking one of his rules. But he must have thought that if he could kill me quickly, then it would be too late for any consequences to matter. He would have won. He was wrong. Holy shit. There's a lot of images here. Hold on. I'm done showing you the images. I'm just gonna swap over to like the general full screen because this is fucking ridiculous. Oh my god. Okay, here we go. Game over. But the world refused to change. Red's power was being challenged by another force. I prevented him from killing me, and when I regained my vision, I saw a familiar sight. Zack. We don't have much time. Who are you? You already know me. I'm Melissa. What? How was that possible? Red told me that he killed you. It's true. Even after death, he tortures me. If you can't stop him, he'll do the same to you. But how will I be able to stop him now? I can't fight Red, but there is one who can. I will release him from Red's grasp. Don't give up. I love you. Oh my god, it's me, your girlfriend. I'm a ghost in the Nintendo. Fucking typical women don't even help you with your problems until you've already suffered enough. Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right, fellas? His words stirred something. Her words stirred something inside of me. I wasn't going to die like this. And I had to fight her for more than just my own life. I had to fight to save Melissa and the world she inhabits. She was my real girlfriend, guys. She was real, and now she passed away when I was in middle school. It's tragic. With her help, the fifth monster was finally unleashed. Acacius, the golden light. This is just what a Nintendo Switch looks like. It was time to end this, once and for all, and together we would take this damned hellspawn out of existence. There we go. Oh, that music's kind of loud. It was time to end this once and for all. Look at how dinky he is. They can't save you, he said. Acacius was by far the strongest playable monster in the game. He had to be, if we were to have any chance of surviving. His punch involved turning his hands into blades, which caused tremendous damage, but Red had more than enough life to spare. In the end, this would come down to pure skill, and I've got plenty of it. I've got a lot of it. Imagine if your middle school girlfriend's ghost just hung out in your Super Mario Bros. 3. Melissa, couldn't you have chosen a better game to die in? Oh. Whoosh-ah, pow! Whoa! Ow! With one final strike, Red was destroyed. His body disintegrated and sank below, accompanied by a soar of triumphant music. Slowly, the paralysis wore off. Sorry, hold on. This entire time, this guy's just like slumped over in a couch, just like watching the screen happen. And the music was, I was able to stand again. Oh! We had done it. Melissa's death had been avenged, and I felt overwhelming happiness. Until I remembered all the death and pain that led up to this point. All the other monsters who had fought and died. I was about to mourn them, but the game had yet to conclude. Wait, I know a tune that might actually be good. Is that it? No, that's not it. I forgot the name of the song. Fuck it. Go back to Donkey Kong. It's like it's the one where you stand at the pillar where it's like give me 1 second. Thank you, Rick. All the death and destruction that led to this point. All the monsters who had fought and died, I was about to warn them, but the game had yet to conclude. Me and my totally real gamer GF. Me and my 3 weed-smoking GFs. Cha-Cha, Pizzazz, Blaze, all 3 of them, they smoke weed with me. Why did he post this one twice? Wake up, Dorothy! You've been sleeping. Face is here! Fuck yeah! Wait. Where's Bobo? Tears of joy streamed down my face, and I broke out crying. I cried harder than I have in several years, maybe in whole life. So is she just stuck in there? Yeah, I have a real girlfriend, don't worry. It's on Godzilla, Monster of Monsters. All I had been through, all I had discovered, and now the game was coming to an end. But before she and the others left, Melissa had something to tell me. You have saved us. We are forever grateful. We'll be together again. Someday, everyone is here. Godzilla, Monster of Monsters. He didn't finish all the side quests to get Bobo. My name is Zachary. And at the time of reading this... At the time of writing this, it's been 3 weeks since the fateful night when I played the NES Godzilla game. Going back to that night to immediately after I turned off the NES, once I was able to start walking around again, the first thing I did was unplug the NES, take out the cartridge, and put them in separate sock drawers. This man has 2 sock drawers? One's for his socks, and one is for his socks when he's thinking about his fucking girlfriend. I looked over at the computer. All the screenshots you've seen in the story were saved. I backed up all the images on a flash drive before I could turn the computer off. Just in case. After that, I hit the bed and instantly passed out. It was not a restful sleep, but one of complete exhaustion. Who cares about the fucking wounds that I suffered? Bobo %. This is what it feels like every time I get a personal best in Sonic Heroes. I hit the bed and instantly pass out. It was not a restful sleep. And what a day that next day was. The first thought I recall coming to mind was, what the hell happened last night? So I thought about it for a short while until it occurred to me to contact the person I got the game from to begin with. Billy. Billy! Ugh! I showed him the screenshots and gave him a very basic summary of what had happened. At first he thought I was pulling a joke on him, but he soon realized that that was not the case. Once it hit him that this was real, he was speechless. He made it clear that he had absolutely not tampered with the game and he had no idea about any of this. So then the obvious question to Billy was, where did you get it from? He told me another friend of mine that I trade games with. He assured me that this was a trustworthy person and he never had any issues with games he got before him. You guys, Billy killed Melissa. So then Billy called him, but when we told the guy the story, he was just as shocked as surprised as anyone else. Okay, how many times are we gonna call someone else? He abruptly hung up on us. This was going nowhere. Ugh, can't believe it. This guy that I've never met before isn't believing my incredibly fucking stupid story. Before Billy left that day... Wait, hang on. That's the first one I clicked on. Before Billy left that day, he asked me if I wanted him to take the cartridge and dispose of it. I sharply declined. I said, that's my girlfriend, you fuck! Billy and I haven't talked much since. Even though I've told him that this isn't the case, I get the impression that Billy thinks that what happened with the game is his fault. After he left that day, I did a lot of thinking. It was really hard for me to do anything else, really. I couldn't stop thinking about the game. There were so many questions I had. What was Red? Was Melissa really in the game? How did she get in there? Why did all of this happen with this game? But one question that kept me for many nights was... Red said that he'd known me for a long time. How? Ever since then, I can't shake this feeling of being watched. The game made me ask myself questions about death and reality in ways that I never wanted to think about. I'm not too sure of anything anymore. Constantly thinking about it soon began to have a negative impact on my life. I just didn't care about anything else at this point. By comparison, all other day-to-day activities seemed utterly pointless. I stopped brushing my teeth, and yes, I'm British. I eventually decided that I had to choose between one of two things. Trying to play the game again, or destroy it. I tried several times to convince myself to try the former, but I never got farther than plugging the NES back up. Bro, you could just turn the controller off when it gets too scary. Just turn it off. Just touching the cartridge made me remember all the pain that I felt with that fight during the Red. I wonder if perhaps playing the game again myself might cause something terrible to happen. I didn't know anything about how this game worked, and it was way too risky. I wasn't sure I could just stand another round of this game anyways. So then it was time for the other option. Wanting to get some fresh air, I took the game with me and drove to the lake, planning to throw it in. I got up to the lake with the cartridge in my hands. I looked down on it and I thought of Melissa, the girl that I haven't seen since middle school. If what I had experienced in the game was indeed genuine, doing what I did may have been the only way to save her from endless torture. In a way, this warped game might have saved her soul. Damn it. Once that thought came into my head, I knew then I wouldn't be able to destroy it. So I just sat down at a bench, gazing at a lake for about an hour. Hold on. Ultimately, I decided on a third option. Selling the game on eBay. It may be selfish, but I promise you that it has nothing to do with money. This cursed sexy game fucking almost killed me. Have fun with it, random stranger that's paying money for it. It may be selfish, but I don't care how much or how little I get paid for this game. Believe me, it's selfish because I don't want the responsibility of owning this card. Bro, just keep it on the shelf. I cannot dwell on this forever, and the only way I can deal with this is by putting this game out of my life. Give it back to Billy. He offered. So this brings me to the main reasons I created a summary of these events. First is to record the details while I can remember them. Secondly is that whoever bids on this game knows what they're getting into. Did you share this in? I feel like this is really relevant information to put on the eBay listing. Like, condition, haunted as shit. He sold his girlfriend's ghost on the fucking eBay! This belongs on Haunted Doll Watch or some shit. Oh my god. I can't guarantee the safety of anyone else who plays this game. The person who fucking plays this game, they're gonna be like, who the fuck is Melissa? Who the fuck is Zachary? Oh my god. Leo, look at this picture I just sent you on Twitch. Kaiju Mafu. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, Kaiju Mafu. I can't guarantee the safety of anyone else who plays this game or anything that will happen, but to the new owner of the game, remember this, be careful. And if you feel like the game is literally messing with your mind, shut the damn thing off. Happy Halloween, you kooky kids. Wow. Wow. What a fucking story. I wish it didn't take literally 4 hours. Holy shit. Okay. Let's review. What music do I want to put on? What's the fucking Galleon Gangplank? Wait, no, extended, please. I need some good music. There we go. All right. Let's discuss. Let's talk about what happened here, because there was a lot. Let's start from the beginning. So, I have a fucking headache. Okay, so there's a squid. Okay, so quick recap. Squid kaiju, screen gets all red and stuff. Titanosaurus is in the game. Nothing happens with Titanosaurus. He melts away into Titanosaurus. The first world is Pathos. He goes to Pathos. Biolante's here. Why is he here? Who fucking cares? Moving on. We're in a cave. We're fighting Magura, and we're fighting Gazora, and we're fighting Biolante. Biolante turns into a weird head, and we're running from red, and we're in trance. Okay. What is, well, okay, what is face? What is face? What is face? What is face? What does he represent? Melissa got fucking owned. Yeah, by like 3 people now. Well, technically. Super haunted, take care of it. It's got my girlfriend on it. What happened to face? Do you like dogs? I don't know, dude. Do you want me to like dogs? What happened with face? What was up with that? What's up with that? Is he supposed to represent? Is he supposed to be creepy? Hold on. Where is it? Where's the fucking image? Where's the image? There it is. What is with these? Tag yourself. Oh god, wait, which image was this? Face represents your sexual desires. When I think about sex, I am... Oh god, it's tough to pick one. I'm number 5. I'm weird face number 5. Face was my favorite. I don't know what his deal was. I just like him. I modified some of these questions because some of them were like kind of fucked up. Like me, the reader, changed what they were asking him, and it has no relevance. Why are you asking me about the game? This had the same issue that Lost Silver had, where it's just like, Here's something spooky. It doesn't mean anything. And it's also not that spooky. I don't know. Number 11's kind of spooky, actually. Number 12 is my dad. that's the are you a bad enough dude to kiss me with tongue face? So he fights a bunch of different monsters. He's running from Red. Why doesn't Red just control him from the start? What does Face mean when he says, can it spin in all directions? What was with the Gatling gun? I don't know anything about Godzilla, so I don't know how much of this is like, oh, that's representative of this or that, or this actually happened. God, part 4 was a fucking mess. You went underwater with Engie boy, Angus. Entropy was very long. What do these world names even mean? None of this makes any fucking sense. What is this? What is this? Hold on. Where is it? What's this? What's up with this? This thing lost the plot by like World 2. And he has the gall to make it 7 more. This was a fucking nightmare. What was the moon beast? Why was Melissa staring at the moon? I guess there's some semblance there. This is something you would see in, like, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Melissa, yes, my sweet, kill yourself. What the fuck? What is this? Furry? No, I'm not a beaver. I was never a beaver. Me when my man just came back from 8 hours of working in the sun and I see his cheeks. I am looking respectfully. That's Bombly. Oh, you're so right. I'm so sorry. And who could forget Dear Beaver Boy? Sorry, I'm drinking water. This hurts. Violence.gif. Okay, but he's kind of like thick though. Like, hello. I wish someone would do this to me in my sleep. I'm just like scrolling through trying to see if any of this makes any fucking sense. Face asked, will you miss me? What happened to Face? Find the gem. Still the best 1973. What is still the best? That's gonna fucking ruin me. What is still the best 1973? What the fuck does it mean? What is it? I wanna know. Still the best 1973. This is the most Chad fucking image I've ever seen. God, part 6 was fucking long. Oh my lord, what do the comments say about part 6? I want a Still the Best 1973 t-shirt. He was number 1! Oh my god! There's a comment here that says, I am the right age to read this? 11. User was banned for this post. You guys, Red got him. The first half seems to be implying that the game cart reads your memory and builds a world out of it, but he had no idea how to end it. So it kind of just became this personal quest that doesn't fucking work. He, like, honestly, just like this screenshot. Let me see if I can find it. Where the fuck is it? Hello? It's early on, not Beaver Boy. I don't want to see you. Oh, it's much earlier. God, where was it? Hello? Oh god, I can't find it anymore. The screenshot where it's just like run. Like that's fucking scary. Just that alone is enough to make me like feel chills in real life, but then he had to fucking jump the shark 18 million times. I miss Face. I miss his silly little questions. Okay. Well, that was a fucking trip. What a disappointing ending. I forgot, Kaijumafu sent me some shit on Discord. Okay, Kaijumafu, what did you have to say? Okay, some fun facts about the game. After the creepypasta came out, it was discovered in the files of the game that Angerus was originally supposed to be in the game and can be accessible via hacking. Rodan was also planned but was cut far earlier because he only had a few sprites. So this creepypasta became huge in the Godzilla fan community after it got published. Literally every Godzilla-oriented YouTube channel made a reading of it. It was inescapable. Oh, I'm so sorry. This creepypasta sucks dick. After a few years, a game appeared on Kickstarter called Colossal Kaiju Combat, made as a spiritual successor to some Godzilla fighting games Atari made in the 2000s. One of the backer rewards was the inclusion of their own fan kaiju into the game, and if I recall correctly, the author of this creepypasta backed the reward and had Solomon and Red added as characters. However, the game got cancelled after one major backer for the project demanded too much work be done on their character and took back all their funding. That fucking sucks. Hold on, this is cool as hell. Can I save this? Yeah, okay. Oh man, this concept art kicks ass. Hold on. This is so fucking cool. Oh man, my desktop folder is having a fucking field day. Here's the concept art for Salamon in this. That kicks so much fucking ass. Where's the other one? Latest? There it is. This is so cool. I'm angry that I didn't get this. This would have been so fucking cool to see. Damn. Well, I'm sorry you had to experience this story yet again, Kaijumafu. And thank you to everyone that's still here. I can't believe I've never streamed for 5 hours before, and I've never read for 4 of them. That's gonna be it for tonight. That's the Halloween stream that we've all come to know and love. So, tomorrow. Holy shit, I still have another stream to do tomorrow. Tomorrow is Halloween, and we're gonna be doing more spooky Halloween games, because I still have 12 left from last week. So we're gonna be doing that, so stop by if you want to watch me be genuinely scared, because today I wasn't that scared. If you don't follow me already, reach out, or follow me on Twitter, or follow me on Twitch at Leo My Friend. I'm gonna email Mark Biaggi. Actually, hold on. One last check for Gunnar Nelson on LinkedIn. Let's open up LinkedIn, see if Gunnar has responded to us. There's a notification. It's not from Gunnar. Damn it. Fuck. Nothing from Gunnar. Don't let red touch you. Fun fact, face-inspired Flowey. Did it really? That's fucking cool. Okay.